Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. My name is Eric Meyer. I am here with Cory Puffett and Evan Ash as always. This week we're going to be getting into a little bit of basketball, just a smidge. Season's about to start up relatively soon. I guess I keep forgetting. It's weird. Second year in a row with the abbreviated offseason due to pandemic delays, but it seems like they're going to start actually on schedule this year and hopefully, God willing, finish on schedule too. So the basketball season starts October 19th. So just a little tidbit. Ben Simmons is still refusing to show up to play for the Sixers. And the Sixers don't seem to be too pressed to get him to show up. So that's that. Moving on. Baseball. The Baltimore Orioles stink as usual, but they have won a couple of games recently, including last night. But I think we're going to talk a little more about the Bowie Bay Sox, who I believe tonight start their championship series. For the Northeast Championship against the Akron Rubber Ducks. I think I saw the Bay Sox play the Rubber Ducks during the season, and you could kind of tell that the Rubber Ducks are pretty good too. So it's an interesting situation. I kind of wish I could have gone, but duty called. I had to come host this show, which, I love to do this show, so I don't mind that one bit. But, Evan, is Grayson Rodriguez pitching tonight, or is he pitching Wednesday?
I'm pretty sure he's pitching tonight.
That was my understanding, too, but I heard some different things. So
okay. I'd seen some tweets with, gas tank emojis and stuff, so I'm pretty sure he's pitching tonight.
But then I saw some other people saying, well, actually, he's pitching on Wednesday, so I'm not really sure what the deal is. Either way, the Bay Sox have won 12 of the last 14. That's how they got to this point, because they started off really hot. I think we talked about that a little bit back in May when the Orioles were starting to swoon, because they started off okay, and then they just lost a bunch of games in a row because that's what they do. So we decided to focus on the minor league teams that are actually pretty good. But then they kind of hit a little bit of a lull in the middle of the season, late June and July, where they didn't play super well. But they finished hot, and hopefully they'll do well in that series. But, that's pretty much the only good news coming out of Baltimore right now as far as, baseball team, because the Orioles still stink. Although, again, like I said, they did win last night. But, Evan, do you have anything about the Major League squad other than they won last night?
Not really. Cedric Mullins is approaching 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. I think he got the 28th and 30th stolen base this past weekend. So he needs he's at 29 home runs right now. So we'll see if that happens. Shout out to all the Braves fans who've been reaching out to me because the Orioles beat the Phillies last night, and the Braves won their game, so the Braves gained a game on the Phillies in that division. And that's pretty much it. I just put my phone on airplane mode, so I don't know what the score of tonight's game is. John Means pitched yesterday. No innings, no runs in 6 2/3 innings. And he got a double as a hitter. The first Orioles pitcher to get an extra base hit since 2011, when then starting pitcher Zach Britton hit a home run here in Atlanta. So, that was pretty cool.
Well,
Pitchers still shouldn't hit them.
You're not missing too much, Evan. It's only the top of the second in the Orioles game right now. It's 0-0. And,
there's nothing.
Pat Valleca is on second base with Gutierrez up 2 outs in the inning.
Oh, well, that's the end of the inning then.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat Valleca made it to second base somehow, so that's something.
Yeah, a double.
All right, Cory, tell us what's going on with your Yankees.
I don't really have a whole lot more than they won last night either, to be quite honest. They did win last night 4-3 against Texas. Almost blew it down the stretch of the game, but managed to hold on. They're up 1-0 in their game right now against Texas. This is really a must-sweep series for the Yankees, considering we've now found ourselves a half a game out of the wild card. And we're coming down to it. We got I think the Yankees have 11 games to go. Most teams have between 11 and 13 left on their schedules. And Boston now has 2 games on us, and Toronto is in the driver's seat as far as controlling their destiny over us. So, but to be quite honest, my enthusiasm for the Yankees has waned, and not just because after that 13-game win streak we've been so crappy, but also because Domingo Germán is supposedly nearing his return, and quite honestly, I don't want to see him pitching in a Yankees uniform in the postseason. I would rather us just miss the postseason than to see him pitching in October baseball. I don't care for Domingo Germán. I don't care how good he is as a pitcher. I don't want him on my team. I talked about this at the very beginning of the season when initially it seemed like maybe he wasn't going to be with us, and then he was, and a lot of the players were not particularly thrilled about it either. I am very not thrilled about it. So I am pretty much fully focused on football at this point. I'll tune in to some playoff baseball, but I really don't care what, if anything, the Yankees do at this point. I want Domingo Germán off my team yesterday.
Okay, well, the Yankees, like you said, do have to kind of sweep this series against the Rangers, not just because they're chasing the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, but because we mentioned this last week. The Yankees' last 9 games are they have a series against the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and the Rays.
Whereas 3 teams ahead of us.
Yeah. Whereas the Blue Jays, I think, have a 4-game set against the Twins, and I think they get another one against the Orioles. So they're going to have opportunities to rack up some wins. The Yankees, they've had their easy chances. They blew a couple of them against the Indians, who are not very good. They got their asses handed to them back-to-back nights there. And like we've mentioned, the Yankees, they won the season series against Baltimore, but not by enough, given the fact how bad the Orioles are. Meanwhile, the Red Sox have pasted the Orioles since that original 3-game sweep at the beginning of the year. The Rays did up the Orioles to the tune of an 18-1 record, and I'm not sure what the Blue Jays' record is, but it's probably pretty compelling too. So the Yankees definitely lost out on the beat up on the Baltimore Orioles sweepstakes, so that's probably going to cost them a postseason spot.
I've never seen such a complete demolition of one baseball team over another. Like this season series of the Rays and the Orioles. Like it was like, it was like major leaguers going up against like little leaguers or something. Just one team had no chance from the very beginning.
Yeah, it was pretty tough to watch, pretty embarrassing, but hey, it helped them. It helped the Rays win the division and has put the Yankees in a position where they likely won't make the playoffs, but they still have a shot. So we'll see.
Orioles are tied with the Diamondbacks for the worst record in the league. And
do you know how they settle tiebreakers for that?
I don't know.
I don't know either how Major League Baseball handles tiebreakers. Because is it a coin flip? Is it because they didn't play head to head this year? Did they? I don't believe they have. They didn't play the NL West, so.
No, I'm sure the Orioles will get
race to the bottom for number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I would imagine it has something to do with like strength of schedule,
maybe run differential, which the Orioles have a decided advantage in the negative against the Diamondbacks. So we'll see how that plays out. There's still a couple weeks left in the season. Let's move to college football because I think we talked playoff picture pretty thoroughly last week.
Well, before we move away from baseball, just want to toot my own horn. I won our fantasy baseball league. Got the championship. Good game to Sam Martin. It was a close game. I only won by 2.25 points in the end. So,
yeah, way to go. Let's move on. I'm just kidding. I'll let you gloat for a little bit. Yeah, Cory had a nice year. It was fun. Like it was a fun baseball season this year. And again, like we talked about this just before the show started. We could kind of tell who the good teams were right away. Like
pretty much.
Like just and again I'm not going to sit there and brag about, oh, look how awesome my team was. This is the first time I've done a fantasy baseball draft in 10 years. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Same.
And that's pretty much, we're all kind of in the same boat there. So the fact that, Cory was able to have a good season, Evan made the postseason. I didn't make the postseason, but my team was still good. I had a fun team to follow. It was just a lot of fun. Hopefully we can maybe
expand the league a little bit. We're hoping to get up to 10 or 12 teams for next year. And, yeah, I mean, do it again. We've got some scoring changes to make, some things to kind of flesh out. But overall, it was a fun first year for our league.
Yeah, good times. So,
absolutely.
Now we'll move to college football. I see some games in here that we're going to discuss coming up, but I guess first I wanted to throw in there. Evan, did you get a chance to watch the Florida-Alabama game?
I was watching that, yes, because Georgia Tech's game against Clemson was in a 2-hour lightning delay on Saturday afternoon. So I flipped over to CBS and I was watching that. And Florida hung around. To be honest, I was rooting for Florida because it all comes back to UGA. So, like, Florida needs to not have this conference loss on their record for this year. But Florida ended up losing by 2 points. I think they missed an extra point somewhere.
Well, they went for 2 at the end, and that play was a disaster.
Yes,
I
that
don't
play
know.
was a disaster.
I don't know how it got to that point because I was following it. I didn't have a chance to watch it. I had some things I had to do on Saturday, but I was keeping up with it on my phone. And Alabama jumped out to a 21-3 lead or something like that, and then suddenly every time I checked, Florida scored another touchdown. And I do remember the score was 21-16 at one point, so I guess that's where the extra point miss happened. But yeah, I was surprised that Bama let them off the mat. I mean, that's not typically what Alabama does. And I do find it interesting, though, that the topic of conversation after Alabama beats a conference rival who's ranked number 11 in the country on the road is what's wrong with Alabama. Like, a number 1 team in the country that goes and does that, most people say, oh, yeah, that's why they're number 1. They went on the road against a conference rival who was really good, and they beat them. Doesn't matter if they beat them by 1 point.
90,000 people in there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they beat them by 1 point or 100. That's a solid, compelling win. But Alabama has raised the expectations to such a high degree that unless they're playing Clemson, then they're expected to blow everybody out all the time. And this time they didn't, but they're still the number 1 team in the country, and a number 1 team in the country beats number 11 teams on the road. Even if it's only by 2 points, they still have and have earned that number 1 spot.
Yeah. You mentioned Clemson. They had an incredibly difficult time on Saturday against little old Georgia Tech for some reason. Clemson was supposed to be this top-ranked team going to be playing for the national championship and stuff. They looked like hot garbage against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, they couldn't score.
They couldn't score. They couldn't score on our defense, really? Our defense is horrible. They just get toasted all the time. So, Georgia Tech not only covered, but they did great. I would like to see them improve some of the, they just screw up a lot of little stuff. A lot of procedure penalties and drop passes when they do pass the ball, stuff like that. But we'll see how they do. I think we got North Carolina now, who might actually be good. So, and then Clemson, they dropped to number 9 with a very ugly win.
Yep, struggle wins will do that to you in college football. There's no style points do matter. So, So some of the games we've got coming up this week. Is this the Big Noon Saturday game?
Big Noon Saturday.
Yes. Number 12 Notre Dame is at number 18 Wisconsin. 12 p.m. on Fox. They're playing that game at Soldier Field, which is interesting. It's not really a Wisconsin home game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah, and yes, I would surmise that the Bears are also on the road. I think they're playing in Cleveland this week.
I believe that's right.
So, I mean, Notre Dame has been struggle winning their way through this early season, and Wisconsin lost to Penn State, who looked like they're the real deal after they beat Auburn. I don't really know what to make of this game because I don't really consider Soldier Field home field for friggin' Wisconsin. That feels more like home field for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I don't really get how this is at Wisconsin. And you don't typically see neutral site games in Week 4, but hey, whatever. Evan, what are you thinking about this one?
I think it's going to be boring, to be honest.
Yeah, I probably agree. This is one you can just probably sleep through, even though it's 2 ranked teams.
I mean, yeah, that's right in the middle of Saturday afternoon nap time for me. So I'll have the game on and probably be snoozing on the couch.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
And speaking of Week 4 neutral site games that feel more like a home game for the quote-unquote road team.
Yeah, Texas A&M is playing at Arkansas, and the game is being played in Jerry World in Arlington. Again, week 4 and we're having games in Jerry World. I don't get it, but that game is.
This game, these two teams play every year because Texas A&M and Arkansas are in the same division in the SEC.
Yep.
And since Jerry Jones went to Arkansas and played football at Arkansas, for the past 10 years or so, they've been playing this game at Jerry World every year.
Interesting.
That's a nice little wrinkle there. So College Game Day will be at the Notre Dame-Wisconsin game. So, that might be a reason to wake up early and watch. And then, Evan, you can take your noon nap when the game actually starts because College Game Day sometimes is more fun to watch than the actual games. In fact, I would say usually it is. Which says a lot about college football a lot of the time. But, regular season
it's a light
football,
slate for the night games. I think we've got the main night game is West Virginia and Oklahoma.
Arch Manning's new school.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. They really played that up on.
He really
ESPN
did.
yesterday.
He had me convinced.
I was like, I heard him say that, and I was like, okay, that has to be a joke, right? Then Peyton kept going on about it. I was like, wait, is Arch actually going to West Virginia? Why didn't I hear about this? And why is he doing that?
Yeah, Tennessee's playing Florida this week, so
Florida's gonna win.
Yeah.
They should fly Peyton Manning
Tennessee's going to find a new and impressive way to lose. They're going to be up by 45 points with 10 minutes to play and lose somehow. Something crazy is going to happen.
Is that game in Knoxville or is it in Gainesville?
Gainesville.
Okay, so there won't be Checker Nealand and Peyton Manning being there, so we won't quite have the full lose to Florida package that Tennessee usually whips out.
Yeah.
That's always a fun time.
Yeah, they're going down.
Yeah, they're definitely going to get their ass whooped this time.
Florida is favored by 20.
Whew. Yikes. So Maryland plays Kent State this week. They're coming off of a struggle win on the road against Illinois. But, hey, it's Maryland. Any win's a good win, especially in an in-conference game. They had no business having the game be that close, but they got the job done. They're 3-0, so I'm happy about that. And they should roll this week against Kent State and set up probably an undefeated matchup against Iowa when Iowa comes to College Park on October 1st. Which I will not be attending that game, but I'm sure it'll be a mess. The people whining on Twitter about Maryland not canceling classes on that Friday, they finally got their wish because they pouted long enough.
Oh my God!
The university
they canceled class.
They haven't. They have not canceled class, but the provost recommended to professors that if they have Friday afternoon classes scheduled, that if they can, opt for virtual. Because the parking lot is going to be opening up for tailgaters and whatnot at 2 o'clock instead of the standard 4 o'clock. So the whiners on Twitter won.
Why are they playing a game on
about
Friday
to start
on
whining.
a school day?
I don't know.
It's so dumb.
I don't know. They just played one last week against Illinois. But like I said, this is College Park. This is the D.C.-Baltimore area. This isn't Urbana-Champaign. Right, like there's people that actually live and work here and drive around the Beltway to get places, and it's gonna people are like it's gonna be a traffic mess if the parking lots aren't open till 4. I'm like, it's gonna be a mess anyway, man. This is rush hour on a Friday, trying to get to a big football game. So it's gonna make it
even worse.
Like this is probably going to be 2 ranked opponents going at it because if Maryland beats Kent State, they're probably gonna end up in the top 25 just because they're 4-0, which they probably deserve. And then they're going to be playing a top 5 team in Iowa and probably lose, and that's going to be that. But I attended the last time Maryland hosted a Friday night game against Penn State, and I left at halftime because it was 38-0. So I bailed. That was enough.
I just want to say that it's absolute weak sauce to cancel class because there's a football game that night. Are you kidding me?
They put so much pressure on the new president and the new provost to do it. They basically shamed him into it. It was
pressure. I'm sorry, the president and provost. This is your job to make big, important decisions.
Well,
you
I guess
signed up for this.
I guess they deemed
choose the right option.
I guess they deemed this as the quote-unquote right option. I've said this many a times. Maryland has sold out to the Big Ten full out. That's the only reason why they're there. They let people come in for 6 figures to have big tailgate parties on our turf. because why else would we be in the Big Ten other than to be somebody else's punching bag for money? So this is where we are. But
at least DeMatha doesn't have a game this week, so they won't have to worry about that traffic, because I know they had some issues with the traffic this past week. Didn't stop them from whooping Friendship Collegiate 38-0, though.
Was this the week they were supposed to play Bishop Sycamore?
No, that was next week, but they've rescheduled to Life Christian Academy.
Okay, so this was just already a bye week that they had.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Bishop Sycamore. That's amazing. I love that story.
Bishop
Good
Sycamore.
Lord.
What? Usually it's Bishop, a person's name. Who? Bishop Sycamore, like
could be
a tree?
somebody's last name.
It's also fitting that the initials are BS. I love that.
It is.
Yes.
It's fantastic. I feel like that's part of the con.
It is.
It has to
sure.
be. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move to professional football now. We're not doing game picks this week because we're doing this on Tuesday, and it's a little too early in the week for us to sit down and actually commit to not just picking winners, but also laying out confidence points. So we'll probably spend a little more time than usual recapping the previous week. We're not going to get to everything just because we do want to talk about some of these games in a preliminary stage. Let's start with the Washington football team, who played on Thursday. And they had a struggle win against the Giants. Got a little lucky. The Giants bailed them out with an offsides penalty that may not have been an offsides penalty, but in my opinion, if you jump early on a field goal, you deserve to get called for offsides, so I don't feel bad for you. So they won. I think 31-29 was the final. Taylor Heineke played pretty well. He had one really bad interception late in the game that almost cost him the game, but he also threw the game-winning touchdown pass and led them down the field for the game-winning field goal after he made the mistake. So he put him in position to win. The defense didn't really hold up. It kind of did. I think the game was...
The defense was interesting because they really struggled early in the game, but they got stops when they absolutely needed to down the stretch. What I don't understand is how Daniel Jones can play with two left shoes and forget how to breathe against 30 NFL teams, but every time he plays Washington, he's amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. He looks like freaking Neo from the Matrix out there against us, but he can't play at all against anybody else.
It's just one of those things, man. It doesn't add up. I was furious when I'm looking at this, and he's got 95 rushing yards and a touchdown in addition to doing a pretty good job. But I mean, the reason they lost that game, and from a macro perspective, is, man, Joe Judge is a coward. Wow, what a weak sauce coach that guy is. My goodness, I couldn't believe it. They intercept Heineke with 2.5 minutes left. Mm-hmm. They're inside the 20, and they don't even think about trying to score a touchdown. They're like, okay, run twice, and then throw a quick in-cutting route that's 3 yards short of the sticks, and then kick a field goal. When all you had to do really was either pick up a first down to bleed the clock and then kick the field goal, or go in and score a touchdown and really put the team in some difficulty there, because then we would have to go down and score a touchdown. Instead, they just were happy to run clock. And Joe Judge had the gall, when asked about that, to sit there and say that he thought that little in-cutting route to Sterling Shepard was, quote, them going for it. That was his idea of a high-risk, high-reward play. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Go win the game, man. Just unreal.
When you're in any competition, when you're trying to win, you need to step on your opponent's throat when you get the opportunity, right? So you don't get cute and you don't, be scared to win the game. You have to go take it. So it doesn't sound like Joe Judge did that.
Not exactly. I wouldn't say he was in the go take it kind of mood. He was just kind of hoping that the clock would expire and he would somehow have more points on the board, which he didn't. So
why is he even coaching football? You have to have a thirst for the competition.
Well, he has a thirst for operating his team like he's a 1960s drill sergeant, but doesn't seem to have the cojones on Sundays, or in this case, Thursday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Not a great display from him. I kind of agree with Cory. The defense was kind of spotty. I was disappointed in the pass rush, or lack thereof. It just didn't seem like against that offensive line that the Giants have, which was porous to say the least, in Week 1 against Denver, and we expected them to not be very good. And Washington's strength is their defensive front, and Chase Young and Montez Sweat, they absolutely were living in the backfield on run plays. Like, they were blowing Saquon Barkley up every other play, but when it came to pass protection, they couldn't quite break through, and I assume it was probably just an anomaly. Plus, it's a Thursday night game. Weird stuff happens on Thursdays, and I'm not going to forget that part of it. But I hope it's just a blip, because they didn't play all that well in Week 1 against the Chargers. I know they held them to only 20 points, but they gave up a ton of third and longs, which helped the Chargers put the game away. If this team wants to be in the mix, they're going to have to step up defensively and be what they were last year, because while Taylor Heineke showed some promise, he made some really good throws, and I'm coming around on the idea that he's certainly a better guy to have out there than Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point. You can't expect him to be a Pro Bowler, because that just doesn't make any sense. The guy's never been that in his entire career. Be happy if he produces like he did on Sunday or Thursday, and put a defense behind him to help him support him and get some wins, because despite the fact that the Cowboys looked okay and they got a win, this division is still very winnable, even if you don't have a perfect team.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of imperfect teams, the Baltimore Ravens managed to pick up a huge win against the Chiefs this week, despite pretty much not having any of their starting running backs, missing a couple of key defensive players, missing their starting left tackle. And yet they got it done because Lamar Jackson is the man.
I mean, if you watch the pregame on NBC for Sunday Night Football, America's pick was the Chiefs, and literally every single analyst, except for Mike Tirico, picked the Chiefs.
And he said that because he's like, I want to save you guys from getting lit up on social media, so I'll pick the Ravens.
Yes, because that would have been a graphic where if everybody picked the Chiefs, somebody would have just snagged that and said, oh, look, everybody picked the Chiefs and the Ravens won. So
yeah, like what happened on Saturday with Wake Forest and Florida State. Everybody on game day picked Florida State. Wake Forest won by 20-some points.
Well, the wild thing is that now Mike Tirico is 3-0 with game picks this year, and everybody else is 2-1, because everybody went into that game 2-0.
What were the first two Sunday the Buccaneers against
the Buccaneers against the Cowboys? Everybody picked the Bucs.
Yeah.
And then the other one was what did you say?
Rams Bears.
Yeah, Rams Bears. Yeah. And everybody picked the Rams.
So the Rams was a layup on that one, and the Bucs you probably kind of had to pick them.
Yeah.
So it made sense that everybody was 2-0. But yeah, good for Mike Tirico for pulling it, and good for Lamar Jackson. Like, this is a criticism of him, was that supposedly he wasn't able to play from behind. Like, typically the Ravens won games with him by jumping out on people. Lamar would just run all over the field, and it would be 14-0 before anybody even looked up. But this is a game where you had to win in a shootout fashion, because the Ravens' defense is not in a very good place right now, and the Chiefs' offense doesn't really do the whole mercy thing. Like, they will shove it down your throat if you're good, if you're bad, if you're somewhere in between. They don't care. They're putting up 35. You better be able to put up at least 36.
It's going to be
The Ravens did that.
Exactly. That's why I said it.
There's a couple of things that'll be interesting to see with the Chiefs offense going forward, ignoring the run game, because we've talked about this before. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not that good of a running back, and I mean, he was the one who coughed it up at the end of the game that really sealed the deal. I mean, you figure in that situation, the Chiefs really should win. I mean, this is Patrick Mahomes getting the ball last,
and they were in field goal range. Like, they were already kind of there, because Butker can make kicks from anywhere.
You figure the Chiefs are probably going to win this game, and then CEH coughs it up. But putting that aside, in the passing game, Tyreek Hill was basically a non-factor in this game, and a lot of that is because the Ravens doubled him. I mean, you kind of figure teams are going to have to do that. Obviously, you pick your poison, because you've got him and you've got Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce ate in this game.
Yes, he did.
If you're going to pick one guy or the other to allow to have his, you really want it to be Travis Kelce, because he's not the guy who's flying down the sideline, catching those bombs 60 yards in the air from Patrick Mahomes. Kelce's the one who's going to gobble up yards over the middle with runs after the catch. You can control that to an extent. Now, obviously, it's not going to be perfect. We did see him take one short pass to the house, because he's just a really good runner with the ball in his hands.
And the Ravens were just not where they needed to be.
Not where they needed to be on that play. But also, one thing that I did see from Patrick Mahomes is that he was able to get some other guys involved that we haven't seen as much of recently. Robinson had a pretty good game, and Pringle had a really good game for them as well.
He had another short catch that turned into a long touchdown.
Yeah. But they were also guys who were being targeted and making some catches further down the field at times in the game. So, you definitely like to see that for the Chiefs offense, the ability to spread it out. You have multiple weapons, and that's going to make it hard. I mean, other opponents are going to have to pay attention to that, and it may lead some teams to shy away from doubling Tyreek Hill, which I think would be a mistake, but clearly they have some other weapons to try and take some of that pressure off of Hill and Kelsey.
The way you beat the Chiefs was sort of on display with the Ravens. Not just you had to score with them, but the turning point of the game was when Mahomes threw that interception. Yeah. And Mahomes doesn't throw many picks, mostly because his team doesn't allow him to throw picks. He throws so many interceptable balls unless he had superhumans like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce on the team. He is a gunslinger through and through. He is not a conservative passer like a lot of people would think because of his low interception totals. He is prone to putting the ball up for grabs.
I mean, we also talked about this, several times over the course of last year and the year before. The number of times that he throws a ball that hits the defender in both of his hands and it isn't picked off. Like,
PFF,
he also gets a lot of luck. On
Pro
that.
Football Focus has definitely made note that he has benefited from a lot of interceptions that didn't happen that probably could have and should have happened. So, and that's no knock on him. It's just that this offense is so damn good that Mahomes can take risks like that. But if something goes wrong and he still tries to take a risk like that, like say he's under pressure, that's when you can get some mistakes out of him, like the Bucs did in the Super Bowl, because he did throw 2 picks and both of them were bad decisions because he kind of had to. They were behind. But this one was just he's trying to make a play when he didn't need to because he's Patrick Mahomes. Since the day he stepped on the field as a starter, he's been able to do whatever he wants. So why wouldn't he think he's going to make that throw? So that's kind of like you just have to get those couple of mistakes out of him and then be able to score because the Chiefs' defense looks terrible. I mean, this is the second week in a row that opponents just completely ran it down their throats. The Browns did it in week 1. In fact, the only reason the Browns lost is because they made the mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh boy, where to start with this game? I don't know why the Ravens have to put me through this every week. Had to stay up till 1:00 in the morning and go to work the next day after an incredibly entertaining game if you're not a fan of one of the teams that's playing in it.
I had fun.
Yeah. I mean, sign me up for all the overtimes you got when it's not my team. So I was impressed with the way that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson were able to mentally overcome the hole that they were in with the pick 6 to start off the game. Lamar is just superhuman. I mean, giving him $500 million is probably a discount at this point. Like, give him a whole $1 billion, right? Like, he's just that good. He took over the game by himself, and Lamar Jackson willed the team to victory. Incredible, testicular fortitude out of Harbaugh at the end of the game, once the Ravens had recovered that fumble. To go for it on 4th and 1 rather than punt back to Mahomes. We talked about Joe Judge being scared to go win the game. When in football, when you have the ball, you have earned possession. So you don't just willingly give it up if you don't have to. In particular, to Patrick Mahomes, who had toasted the Ravens defense all night long. The Ravens, though, they did a good job. Like you mentioned, covering Tyreek Hill. I think he only got like 14 yards or something. So, if you double Tyreek Hill, you might be able to beat the Chiefs. If you leave him one-on-one like the Buccaneers did last year, when Hill had like 200 yards in the first quarter, like that's how you lose. And then let's see what else. Alejandro Villanueva. What happened to the... I don't understand at all. Maybe one of you guys can explain this to me. He looked like the worst player in the history of the NFL on Monday night against the Raiders. He comes back 2 days ago and he's on left tackle, the harder position to play, and he does fine. We never heard his name called. So, like, what is the difference? Why is switching sides so much easier? That boggles my mind.
Yeah, I don't have enough of a football acumen to that nitty gritty to be able to explain why playing right tackle doesn't work for you, but left tackle does. Because I feel like you can learn it, right? But it's not like you become slower on one side of the field. Now maybe there's
a lot of it has to do with what you're asked to do, because when you're playing left tackle, your primary objective is to be a pass blocker, because the right tackle tends to be your best run blocker. Not to say you don't run to the left side, because obviously you do. You have to switch it up. But on the left side, you're responsible for the quarterback's blind side, whereas the right tackle, you can do a little bit less typically in the pass game, because the quarterback sees what's coming that way. It's easier for them to duck and move and scramble, and kind of move within the pocket to avoid any kind of pressure from that. So your focus is more on the run game, which I think that he tends to really struggle with.
Yeah, but he was terrible in pass blocking at right tackle too, which is what kind of makes it weird. It's like, It wasn't just, he was getting beat on the run plays, but he was holding up okay in the pass plays. He was letting, like we said last week, some guy I've never heard of, Max Crosby, just absolutely eat his lunch every play. But this week he was great, so I can't explain it. I'm glad for Lamar's sake that he got it together playing left tackle, or else Lamar might have been in pieces before halftime, and that would have made life difficult for the Baltimore Ravens to win. And for Lamar, I think this game kind of proved something, that he is certainly a guy who raises the floor of any team he's on, because he can one-man wrecking crew an offense by himself. Now, there's some questions about how high does he raise the ceiling for a team, but we haven't really seen him have much of an opportunity for that, because he hasn't really had great receivers anyway. Like, if you've got great receivers but you can't throw outside the numbers, then those good receivers are wasted on you. But we've also never seen Lamar actually try to throw outside the numbers with good receivers. His best receiver's been Marquise Brown, who is okay. So I'm not going to say that he can't do it, but at the very least, all those injuries to the running backs, the offensive line shuffle that they've got going on with Ronnie Stanley being out, it's just the fact that he was able to do what he did pretty much all by himself speaks to how effective he is, because there aren't many quarterbacks that are both the most important member of the passing game and the running game, and that's what Lamar is. Like, every run play he has an influence on, because teams have to defend him even if he hands the ball off, because you just don't know if he's going to keep it. Whereas if you've got a slower quarterback, you know he's not going to keep it, so you don't care.
Yeah. And also shout out to Ravens defense in the fourth quarter. So the Chiefs scored 14 in the first quarter, 7 in the second, 14 more in the third, and then 0 in the fourth. So, like, if you can hold this offense to a bagel in the fourth quarter of a critical game for both teams, I think you did something right.
Absolutely. And shout out to the Ravens for playing Omar's whistle as the team was coming out of the locker room. I heard rumors that they were going to do that. I didn't think they would actually do it, and then they did. And at that point, there was no doubt that they were going to go for it on 4th and 1, because you can't flex that hard and then punt. That's just not going to work. And an interesting story, apparently David Simon, who is the creator and head writer of The Wire, was walking by the stadium as they played that. And at first he was kind of like, he thought he was hearing things. And then he tweeted about it, and somebody let him know, was like, no, they actually did that. And I just thought that was kind of cool that, Baltimore did that. Also, again, appreciated the fact that Baltimore in the end zone still has Mo highlighted for Mo Gaba. Just,
yes.
Good vibes all around from the Ravens for this one. So I'm really glad they got the win. They put it all out there on the field, and whoever's running the show for all the extra stuff outside of that also did a really good job too. So full credit to them. Who do they play this week? They finally get a 1:00 game
at Detroit. So glad Sunday at 1 I can sleep. It's going to be great.
It's got to be irritating, because when you're the teams that are playing the standalone primetime games, there's so much pressure on you, because everybody's talking about that game if you lose. And
yeah,
that's a huge deal, because especially after they lost to the Raiders, which most of us expected the Ravens to win pretty handily. they lose that game, and then if they get waffled by the Chiefs, there's going to be all kinds of nonsense coming out. But they got it done, so full credit to them.
Yeah.
So some other interesting games from week 2. Let's talk a little bit about the Saints and the Panthers. Like, what is going on?
Yes.
Like,
the hell happened there?
I don't know. And
the undefeated Panthers.
yes, 2-0
Put some
Panthers.
respect.
With Sam Darnold as their quarterback.
Yeah, and Sam Darnold has played pretty well. Their defense has been terrific. Like, we're going to talk about it in a little bit when we get to best and worst. When was the last time anybody ever saw Alvin Kamara as the worst running back of the week? That doesn't happen.
I knew that he didn't do much this week, but when I was looking at the best and worst, I was shocked to see his name really on either of them, but much less the worst.
Oh, and it was ugly. I knew that his name would show up as soon as it was 2nd and goal from the 1, or maybe it was 1st and goal, and Kamara ran to the outside, and the Panthers they stacked him up completely. But since he's Kamara, he didn't go down. But this time it was more of a curse than a blessing, because since he didn't go down, he had no choice but to try to cut it back. And then he lost even more yards. And I'm just like, yikes. This is just going to be one of those games. But since my opponent had Alvin Kamara in fantasy, it didn't really break my heart, because in that time I thought the game was going to be really competitive until Derrick Henry decided to score 49 points. But, yeah, it was ugly all around. Jameis Winston didn't have a great game, but I can't really blame it all on him. He was under siege. He made a couple of patented Jameis bozo mistakes, but again, that's going to happen when he's under siege. Like we just talked about Patrick Mahomes, who is far more level-headed than Jameis Winston. He tends to make his mistakes when he's under pressure. Jameis Winston makes mistakes even when he's not under pressure. So what's going to happen to him when he has to make a play because they're behind, and he's got 4 dudes in the backfield? He's going to throw an interception or fumble the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Saints were disappointing. They looked so good against the Packers, but I guess the Packers just really mailed it in last week. And then, the Saints, they go up against what should be a worse Panthers team than the Packers are. And like, what happened? That was just a steaming, terrible performance out of them. I don't understand. They should have done better than what they did.
Now, there's something to be said, I guess, and I didn't really pay much attention to it, but the Saints were missing like almost their entire coaching staff.
Yeah, I think they had eight coaches that were not present because of COVID.
Yeah, so I don't know how much of an impact that actually has on game day. I do know that the one time that Sean Payton tore his ACL on the sidelines after Jimmy Graham got tackled into his leg, the Saints fell apart after that when he wasn't on the sideline. I also know that when Sean Payton was absent for Bountygate, a year after the Saints went 13-3 and returned their entire roster, basically, the Saints fell off and went 7-9. Then when he came back the next year, they made the playoffs again. So
now that was the head coach,
sure,
but at the same time, 8 assistant coaches versus 1 head coach, you could see where maybe their combined value could be similar.
And it's possible that there's just those guys help make adjustments because they have to deal with their position groups. If the offensive line is really struggling, somebody's got to tell them, hey, you're doing this, that, and the other wrong, or they're doing this, here's how we counter that. If that guy's not there and Sean Payton's having to do it all, or some guy who's not really qualified to do that is having to do that, then you're going to be screwed. So I'm not going to say it was entirely because I don't really know.
Right.
But it is something to consider. So if the Saints bounce back this week or down the road and they start looking like the team that showed up in week 1, then maybe this was just a blip. But it's also hard to just write it off as a blip when you've got a new quarterback who has a track record of being a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe Jameis was the 3rd worst quarterback according to quick reads this week. He was number 32 out of 34 ranked quarterbacks that they listed.
Yeah, not very surprising. Other games that happened, the Cowboys and the Chargers.
Oh my goodness.
Mike McCarthy. Jeez.
Mike McCarthy is such an idiot, and somehow he got away with it.
Yeah.
Hey, it helps.
He is who we thought he is, and the Chargers let him off the hook.
Yes.
Yeah, Greg Zuerlein let him off the hook.
Yes,
is more like it.
Too.
Chargers didn't really have much say in the matter. Again, as in my other league, I own Greg Zuerlein as my kicker. So I was thrilled that he got a chance to kick a 56-yarder instead of something closer, especially because he made it. But, wow, that was baffling. And he's blaming it on the team for having, like, not the right personnel on there. I'm like, okay, if somebody
You're the coach of the team.
I'd say, okay, so the wrong... But even so, that happens. Football games, there's a lot of in and out communication issues and things like that. If you don't have the right personnel on the field, call a timeout. Like, why would you let 30 seconds burn off the clock while you're trying to send whoever out there, and then you just have to spike it or call your timeout with 4 seconds
You
left?
had so much time. Call the timeout, get a completion. If you don't get out of bounds, you've got more than enough time to go up to spike the ball. And it's first down. Like, it's not like you have, like, it's third down, and if you don't get it past the marker, well, now you got to sprint Greg Zuerlein out there to try and get a last-second kickoff.
No, that was not
that
the
was
case
not
at
the
all.
situation.
Just
I don't understand what he was thinking. It
I don't
made
think he
no
was
sense.
thinking anything.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of
there's
typical Mike
cobwebs and
McCarthy at
dust.
this point.
you can't justify
I
that.
mean, I was hating on this guy when he was still in Green Bay, and so far he has done absolutely nothing in Dallas to make me feel like I might have been unfair to him.
No, I think it feels like he's honestly trying harder to prove you right. 'Cause he's actually been demonstrably worse in Dallas than in Green Bay, which is insane because there were plenty of moments where Cory was justified in teeing off on Mike McCarthy, but here it's just like last year he had a disastrous season. It wasn't entirely his fault. Dak got hurt, but he comes in there and he basically says how he's become an analytics guru in his basement. And then, like, in week 6,
goodness gracious.
and then in week 6, somebody kind of asked him about that, and he gets up there with a wry grin on his face. He basically says, "Yeah, that's just kind of something I said in the job interview to get the gig." And I'm just like, my goodness, this guy does not care at all. Like those stories about him getting massages and God knows what else going on when he was supposed to be doing game prep, I believe him 100%. Like it's not.
What?
Like with the Packers, he was supposedly acting like a complete fool, like just doing a whole bunch of nonsense, getting jealous of Aaron Rodgers because Aaron was getting the credit for the team's success because, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And so McCarthy was also doing all kinds of stupid stuff, like just blowing off meetings because he's getting a rub down or something like that. And I'm just like, and at first, again, I took it with a grain of salt. It sounded like, just chirpings from the rumor mill, unnamed sources in an expose about the disastrous end of the McCarthy-Rodgers era. But now that I'm seeing this clown stuff going on, I'm just like, okay, that stuff had to be true, right? Like, I will speak it into existence at that point because I want to ridicule this guy now. Like, he's made himself such an easy target.
Was he with Robert Kraft at that
I don't think it was
massage parlor in Florida?
No, he was doing it with official team people, not sex traffickers. Thank God for that.
Oh, okay.
He didn't dabble in that. So that's why
official team people. Oh, dear.
Yeah, this was like the dudes that give the players massages when they need them, and he's like taking a nap while he's getting a rub down. He's 2 hours late for the meeting with the quarterback. Just my goodness. Anyway, that was terrible, but the Cowboys did get a win. They're on the board with 1-1 record. The Chargers kind of disappointed in this game a little bit.
They blew it too.
They did, and Cook in particular, Jared Cook. I guess technically it wasn't
really
his
gonna have
fault
expectations
because
for Jared
it
Cook?
already happened before. So he got called for a taunting penalty after scoring a touchdown, but actually there was another penalty on that play that pulled them back. I think there was
an illegal motion.
The whole thing was just a mess for the Chargers.
The taunting stuff.
I mean, they
so bad.
Like
then
I said,
they got sacked after that.
I get that the end it was really Greg Zuerlein that let him off the hook, but the Chargers let McCarthy off the hook too by making mistake after mistake. I mean, we're talking about Mike McCarthy. I think I called him an established Nincompoop in our chat the other day, which he is. But the Chargers, I mean, that was pretty pathetic as well.
What's the it's Staley? What's Staley's first name? Brandon Staley.
I think that's right.
Yeah, like I was just watching
the year pick.
Yes, Brandon Staley.
I was watching the game on Red Zone, and they cut to him freaking out and raging about stuff, and it took me forever to just compute that that's Brandon Staley. I was like, who the hell is that guy? Screaming his head off. I was like, oh wait, that's the new head coach. He looks like a little boy. Like, I was just like, they hired this guy, and he's just freaking out over there, somehow getting out. I don't even want to call it out coached. winning a race to the bottom of coaching against Mike McCarthy. I'm like, man, I know he's a rookie head coach, so you kind of have to give him a little bit of leeway, but not the best look starting out, man. Like, that was just an ugly coaching performance from him. The Chargers felt like they had opportunities to put the game away. They couldn't do it. They had that really ugly play that everybody's whining about, that in the grasp call on Justin Herbert, where he was falling backwards as he was throwing it, and they ruled him in the grasp, so they called it a sack. I'm like,
I don't like that call.
They should have called it intentional.
It was intentional grounding though, so
Right.
it would have been the same difference.
thing.
I didn't like the in the grasp call, but 6 of one, half dozen of the other, he would have been called for grounding because he didn't throw it to anybody, and the ball didn't get back to the line of scrimmage. There was no target in the area. So, I mean, it was the same result anyway. It was just a bad play. And again, they were in that position because they got backed up on the goal line because of some mishaps there. I mean, just not a very good game. The only guy that really showed a lot to me, or two people actually, Micah Parsons looks amazing.
He does.
He looks like I think, did we all pick him to win Defensive Rookie of the Year?
I believe I did. And
I
think
did
you.
not.
I did.
think you
Evan
did
picked
too, yeah.
Patrick Surtain, I believe.
Yep.
Who also
Yes.
looked good this week too, so shout out to him. But Micah Parsons looked great, and Tony Pollard looks like he's ready to tell Ezekiel Elliott, you can sit behind me now.
Pollard looked really good
yeah.
in this game. I mean, and I think Pollard wound up being, I think he was the top running back rushing according to.
Well, he had like
Football Outsiders.
109 yards on 13 carries. He was lighting it up. He was fantastic.
And this is a guy who normally, like, his role is more so in the passing game. Like, yeah, he's a change of pace back, but he also tends to be like the running back who gets involved in the pass game for them. He's showing that he can do everything in this offense that,
he's
a
also
running back can be asked to do.
He's also been a certified vulture the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, red zone situations, they've used him a lot more than you would expect.
Yeah.
For a team that had Ezekiel Elliott, now he's getting a little more work at all parts of the field, and he's kind of showing that he's got a little more of pep in his step than Zeke does at this point.
Yeah,
I'd be
agreed.
concerned about that if I was Ezekiel Elliott. He might start losing even more touches to him, but.
Now, somebody else who let McCarthy off the hook this week, because McCarthy was probably not the worst coach, certainly didn't make the absolute worst coaching decision this week, that would be David Culley of the Houston Texans.
Oh, goodness gracious.
That's one of your boys, Evan. He came from the Ravens.
We got a compensatory pick for him getting hired. Like a third rounder or
That is
something.
an Eric DeCosta
I-
fleece job. My
I think
goodness.
y'all got a steal there. I think you guys won that one.
There was no trade, though.
I know, but I think you guys got more than he was worth as far as the compensatory
I didn't
pick
know they
goes.
gave compensatory picks for coaches. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought it was just
I
players.
think it's new if a coach of color gets hired. The team he came from gets a compensatory pick.
Wouldn't,
Like, this is recent addition.
Wouldn't you figure that the team that hired him would get the pick? Because
I don't know, man.
okay,
You know,
well,
I think it's strange in all aspects.
Well, good
but
for
yeah,
the Ravens.
got a comp pick.
Yeah.
yeah, congratulations.
What we need
to
is
the
more
Ravens.
picks.
Yeah, more picks for the Ravens, and but yeah, David Culley. It was a situation where this is like second quarter, I believe.
Yeah, this
It
is
was a
like,
this
this
was
was still
game.
early enough in the game that like, this was not over.
Not only was it not over, the Texans were in control of the game. Tyrod Taylor was playing great before he got hurt, and my goodness, just unluckiest quarterback of the last 20 years,
I
bar
feel
none.
so horrible for him.
Like, my goodness, but I think it was 7-7. It's 3rd and 15. The Texans run a play that picks up 13 yards to make it 4th and 2 at the Browns 49. So they're in plus territory, although just barely. But the Browns were offsides on the play, so it was a free play. And so you can either reset and just play 3rd and 10, or you can say, okay, we'll take it at 4th and 2 and try to pick up a 4th and short. But if you don't have the stomach to go for it on 4th and 2, you just say, okay, we'd rather have it 3rd and 10. We'd rather have, a
down to try and get it without potentially turning the ball over on
at
downs.
midfield. Yeah, like we'd rather have the option of if we don't get it, we can punt, versus the other option of if we go for it and we don't get it on 4th and 2, whatever.
And again, you also get the 4th and 2 at the 35-yard line, which means they'd be a 52-yard field goal if you
No,
want to go
it was at the 49.
Oh, 49-yard line. Okay.
Yeah, so they were not in field goal range, but
Anyway.
yeah. So I'm just looking at this. I'm like, okay, neither one of those options is bad. If you decided to take the penalty and go for it on 3rd and 10, I understand. If you decide, hey, I'd rather go 4th and 2 and try to pick it up, it's pretty ballsy, and I give you credit for it, but I understand. What I don't understand is voluntarily punting the football when you don't have to. And that's what they did. They said, we'd rather have it be 4th and 2 so we can not have the ball anymore. I'm like, what are you doing? Like David Culley said in the postgame that it was for the purpose of trying to win the field position battle. I'm like, dude, it's 8 yards.
Snowing.
It's 8 yards. What are you talking
understand
about?
The field position battle if it's
you're also,
snowing sideways.
If you're overthinking 8 yards, you're doing coaching wrong.
You're also at the 49, okay? Which means that if you didn't do that and you decided we're going to run a play on 3rd and 10 and if we throw an incompletion, then you're punting from the 41. That is the same thing.
It really is, because if you're punting from the 49, I mean, you're more likely to end up putting that through the end zone and getting a touchback.
Yeah, the people take delay of game penalties to move them back so they have a little more space just for that reason.
Exactly.
And I don't recall exactly what happened. I pray that this is true, that the punt ended up in the end zone. And it ended up being a touchback.
I'd have to
go check the play-by-play. I didn't bother with that part. I just wanted to see.
Jackson checked the tape.
The preposterous, just, what the hell was that? Anyway.
I am going to pull up the play-by-play right now because now I'm curious.
Yeah, well, the Browns won the game. They started off a little sluggish. Baker Mayfield threw an interception on a play that apparently wasn't his fault because the receiver stopped running his route. And then Baker got dinged up attempting to make a tackle. He seemingly hurt his left shoulder, but he stayed in the game and played very well otherwise. He completed 19 out of 21 passes, so he was very efficient. And, of course, the Texans aren't good, so we kind of expected it. And Nick Chubb eventually busted loose and did what he does, and the Browns ended up winning, pretty much going away. But, again, shout out to Tyrod Taylor for making the best of a crummy situation, playing great football for it went in the end zone, didn't it?
It was a touchback.
There you go. Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, my God. Well, yeah, the 8 yards of field position really helped on a net 29-yard punt. Way to go. Brilliant.
Field position.
In the second quarter.
Field position. But I understand playing field position, you're right on Lake Erie. It could be snowing a foot an hour and, 30-mile-an-hour winds and stuff. Then you play field position, right? But a September game with the sun out, what are you even talking about?
I guess the Browns team with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt at running back and a good quarterback, field position is not going to do that much for you, especially 8 yards of it.
Which turned into nothing
that's from
because
here
the
to
kick
over
was
the
the end
touchback.
zone. God. Holy smokes. How do you do that? But anyway, again, credit to Tyrod Taylor, who played really good football for 6 quarters. Unfortunately, he sustained a hamstring injury, had to come out. Davis Mills came in, looked like you would expect David Mills to look. Davis Mills?
Yeah, Davis Mills.
Whatever. He's probably, I think they announced that he's starting Thursday night against the Panthers, which, yikes, especially given the way the Panthers have been playing
3-0.
defense. Yeah, Panthers look like they're going to start 3-0 with that one. But yeah, we wish Tyrod a speedy recovery. The Texans seem like they are completely not inclined to play Deshaun Watson ever again. And it's weird because we don't really know why. We have two understandings of why. It's either because he is involved in a case where he's been named a serial sexual abuser, or it's because he wants a trade. We don't really know which one it is, though, because he hasn't been put on the exempt list. He hasn't been suspended.
But the expectation would be that if he is activated, that they probably would put him on the exempt list.
Well, then why not just put him on the list now so we can just put this
because he's not actually on an active roster. I don't know if you can actually be on that list if you're not activated.
The whole thing's made up. Just put him on the list.
Yeah.
Wait, he's not. Why is he not on the? How is he not on the act? He's not hurt, right? So he's just in limbo somewhere.
I guess I don't know.
Whatever. It's again just more bizarre stuff coming from the league office and the Texans. But
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Oh yeah, Vikings Cardinals.
Oh my, that was an incredible game. I can't even begin to describe how much I love sitting and watching the Red Zone. Every afternoon or every Sunday afternoon.
I wish it was every afternoon.
Yeah, when Red Zone's wrapping up, I have to pee so bad because I can't get up from the couch to miss 1 minute of the action of Red Zone. So every time they flip to this Vikings-Cardinals game, something crazy happened. Either Kyler is inches away from getting sacked by somebody twice his size, and he whirls around and then runs to his left, whirls around again and throws the ball 65 yards, somebody who's wide open. Or he does the same thing, but throws it right to a defender instead, who takes it to the house. And then Kirk Cousins was playing well. Yeah, this guy, my boy Adam Thielen caught a touchdown. Justin Jefferson, I think he also got a touchdown. The Cardinals take the lead right at the end. And then, the Vikings and their kickers, a tale as old as time, comes down to a Vikings kick to win. And it's no good. And the Vikings lose. It's
much to the surprise.
Unbelievable. At literally the same time, Red Zone was on split screen as the Cowboys were lining up to kick their game-winning field goal.
Yeah, I was getting frustrated. I was like, cut to one so we can actually see where the ball is, man. I don't have that good a vision to be able to double box 2 field goals. But, of course, shout out to Paul Allen of the Vikings radio broadcast for completely whiffing on the field goal call. Yells out, and it's good! And then the guy next to him, whoever that is, I don't know, he's like, nah, it's no good, he missed. And you just hear him, gotta be kidding me. It's just like, yeah, that's the life of a football fan, man. It's brutal, and it wasn't really like that kick was that close. Like that wasn't, it didn't hit the upright, it didn't go over the upright, so you're not really sure. That ball,
wasn't a double doink.
Yeah, no double doink where you got to sneak inside after it hit off the upright. Nope, it clearly missed wide to the right. So not as bad as wide right was, Cory, as you shared on the chat. That was ridiculous.
When you say wide right, like that's what you think.
Yeah,
of.
sure, fair enough. So anyway, that was
another really wild moment on Red Zone was back to back, like within 5 seconds of each other. You had a touchdown run. I think it was a 26-yard touchdown run by Damian Harris, where he just would not go down. I mean, it felt like a longer run than that, quite frankly. He wouldn't go down. Nobody could tackle him. That was in the Patriots game, which they demolished the Jets 25-6. And then within seconds, you had some random running back, Demetric Felton for the Browns, making a catch and run for 33 yards, and he wouldn't go down. Like, they were just carrying dudes across the end zone.
Yeah, Damian Harris was definitely on angry runs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was very impressive.
But Demetric Felton's was pretty angry looking too.
He didn't quite break as many tackles as Damian Harris did, but like I definitely didn't expect him to score on that play.
That duo. I was looking forward to seeing that back to back again during the
touchdown montage.
Montage. I enjoyed that a lot.
Unfortunately, the problem with the touchdown montage was the Seattle Tennessee game was still going on, and they made us go off of Red Zone to watch it on CBS. And so I kind of went back to the touchdown montage in the middle of that game. I was like, I want to watch the touchdown montage real quick. And I was like, I missed a few. But, it doesn't matter. I did catch those two back-to-back when I flipped over. So I guess we'll talk about that game too then. The Seahawks-Titans game. The Seahawks just completely blew.
An epic fail out of the Seahawks.
Yes.
Right? Their first home game with fans, all those people all jacked up and had a whole gallon of coffee by 12 o'clock. And they're up. I know they're up 30-16. I want to say they're up by 15 points at one point as well.
Well, they missed an extra point that would have made it 31-16. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, and the Titans are a high flying passing team like the Chiefs are, for example. Like, if you're up 14 points on the Chiefs, a punt, a bomb from Mahomes to Hill, and then another punt, another bomb. It's tied up, right? But that's not how the Titans operate. They just handed it to Derrick Henry over and over, and the Seahawks just took it like a man. They really did. Like, just every time they hand it to Henry, 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards, 65 yards. Just these big chunks, He looked like, I don't know, just like an SUV running down the highway. Like you're not going to get away and you're not going to get in his way and stop him. There's nothing you could do about it. And then they finally go to overtime and the Seahawks get the ball and they just go backwards. Should have been a safety, but they called in the grasp or something. Again, somehow not a safety. Russell Wilson's whole body's in the end zone when he's in the grasp.
Well, the initial contact on the sack was at the 1 yard line, but I thought he got away from the pass rusher enough to the point where then he was then grabbed like again. That it should have been a safety, but I don't know. It worked out fine because the Titans ended up winning anyway. But a walk-off safety would have been more fun than whatever the hell ended up actually happening. Although I'm not going to say I complained because that got Derrick Henry some more points, which was why I held on to the Brady Award. So
Eric had a fun time this week. Derrick Henry scored 49 points in our league, number 5 running back score we've seen in our league's history. $182, 3 tutties. Big day for him.
He got a lot of work in the passing game too, which is unusual.
Yeah, that was very unusual. He had 6 catches.
6.
Six catches for 55 yards.
He kept just running like a little check down route right over the middle, and Tannehill just kept feeding it to him because Jones and Brown weren't necessarily getting open downfield.
Well, Jones still had a good game. He had 6 catches for 128. I mean, A.J. Brown only caught a third of his targets, whereas Julio Jones caught 6 of 8.
Yeah, Julio's gonna be fine. We know Julio.
Like, his week 1 was a little bit of a dud, but like this is Julio with a brand new team, a new offense, new quarterback. Like you expect there's gonna be some growing pains initially, but he's still a top flight wide receiver.
Yeah, just Julio Jones picked up like the easiest you'd ever see, like 27-yard completions, just running like deep outs and just I'm bigger, faster, more agile, and a better route runner than everybody in the world, so I'm wide open.
Julio Jones also caught what was initially ruled a touchdown, but his heel came down out of bounds.
I wasn't thrilled about that. That was irritating. But again, at the time my game was close, so I was like, I need that touchdown, especially because Kyler had just thrown a pick 6, and I was like, that brought me back to the pack here. Come on, got to keep moving up. Don't want to be going backwards. But yeah, another great game. That loss for the Seahawks keeps the NFC West from being undefeated. Everybody else in that division is 2-0, and frankly, the Seahawks probably should have been. So the Bills play the Dolphins. That was a laugher. Tua was hurt.
Yeah,
sucks for him. Hopefully, he's able to play soon. Doesn't seem like it's too serious of an injury. Hopefully, it doesn't keep him out too long. Carson Wentz got hurt again.
Rib injury.
Yeah, but they were saying that like they think he could potentially be back this week.
Yeah, that's what they said, but. He hasn't looked very good since the start of this season. He didn't play well against the Patriots, and he did not start very well against the Bills before he got hurt.
Yeah.
My goodness, the Bills just absolutely owned the Dolphins. They crushed them at the end of last year, too, when they weren't even trying.
And the Dolphins were trying.
Yes, they needed to win that game, and they got blasted. So Carson Wentz got hurt again. It felt weird because you're sitting here watching the guy standing on 2 feet on the sidelines while some bum comes in behind him and throws the game away. And so, of course, naturally the jerks would get out there and say, "Oh, that's soft, man. Why aren't you on the field?" And then he finds out, he sprained both ankles somehow. Like, how the hell did he sprain both?
2 ankles?
Because I think Aaron Donald rolled into both of them, and Aaron Donald's a large man.
Unfortunate. Yeah. Before he went out, I mean, not that he was playing great or anything.
He threw an interception on a shovel pass.
Which was hilarious. Like, I'm not saying he played great, because he demonstrably did not. No. But he did his Houdini thing in the pocket, because that's the one thing that Carson Wentz does, is he is Houdini in the pocket. Like, you think you've got him, and then you don't.
Yeah, He's great at the whole turtle until everybody thinks I'm down, and then nobody actually touched me. They just thought they did, so they give up, and then I run.
It's amazing he did that so every single time. Like, if there's a reason to get rid of the whole in the grass thing, it is him, because the number of times he gets out, like, you got to give a quarterback a chance to make the play.
Like, he has perfected because Eli used to just sack himself by turtling on the ground. He turtles, but he stays on his feet, so you think the play is over. But then nobody tackles him, and then he just runs around. And in his one good year, he would usually make a cool play. Yeah. Now he just throws to triple coverage and prays it doesn't get picked off. But
that's where we are. The semi-turtle.
So it's interesting, though, because the Rams, this is another one of those games where I feel like over the years, the Rams they've earned a lot of equity with us. They've made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. Every year under McVay, they've had a winning record. And they just have games like this where they're weirdly close, but they don't really feel that close because you just feel like, all right, the Rams are going to win because the Rams are clearly better. They have occasional gaffes, like that ridiculous punt situation where the punter is standing at a diagonal from the center, so one of the up backs that's like blocking has to move over to the left to get out of the way, and he didn't move over enough, so the ball hit him on the arm on the snap. And I'm just like, why is this so complicated? Why is the punter standing off tackle? Like, what is going on here? Why not just put him behind the damn center? But I don't know. I don't know what's going on half the time anymore with the special teams. But the Rams look good. I mean, despite the fact that they had some not so great moments in this one, they look like the same machine that they always were, except Matt Stafford's an upgrade over Jared Goff. So they definitely look like a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the postseason, assuming that everybody stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
The Philadelphia Eagles, who I eliminated from the playoffs last week, but then picked to win against the 49ers, did not do so.
They hung in there.
But they hung in there. That was an interesting game because Jalen Hurts played okay for the most part. In particular, he was effective in the running game. He had 10 carries for 82 yards. But in the passing game, it wasn't even necessarily his fault. There just wasn't a lot there for the Eagles. 117 of his 190 passing yards came on 2 plays to Quez Watkins. Which, who the hell is Quez Watkins? Like, just to put it in perspective, Quez Watkins had 117 receiving yards. The next highest total on the team was Dallas Goedert with 24. We're talking about a 93-yard difference there between number 1 and number 2. So there wasn't really a whole lot there for the Eagles. And the 49ers didn't blow them away or anything. Like, the 49ers really do strike me as a team that's going to be hit or miss. You know, they've got some pieces, but between some of the injuries they're dealing with, in particular at the running back position, and their defense is not, in my opinion, as stout as it has been the last few years. I don't think the 49ers are, they're 2-0 right now, but I think that they're probably the worst team in that division right now. I think that they're definitely worse than the Cardinals, worse than the Rams, and I'd say they're worse than the Seahawks. Right now, the Cardinals are the best team in that division to me. The Rams
What?
Your boy Cliff Kingsbury?
I know, but yes, exactly. Notwithstanding their head coach.
Notwithstanding, they should have lost on Sunday if the Vikings kicker didn't go shank
Kyler Murray is amazing, and the defense is playing pretty well. The Vikings have a solid offense. They've got good pieces. They've got a good defense. Generally speaking, they didn't do anything to slow down Kyler Murray this week. I think that the Cardinals are the best team in that division. I think that the Rams and the Seahawks are kind of battling for that number 2 spot. I'd probably give the nod to the Seahawks right now, despite the loss this past week. But I would put the 49ers number 4 in that division.
I'm not going to give the Cardinals that kind of a benefit of the doubt. We saw what they did last year, where they came out, looked amazing early, and
this is a new year.
It's still 2 weeks though. They
still have the same coach.
Yeah,
your
they
boy.
do have the same
remember?
Coach, Cliff Kingsbury.
I remember.
Yikes.
Doesn't sound like you remember.
Believe me, this doesn't make me feel very good to be, calling his team the best in that division. But
this is a podcast. You can say whatever you want. You can say whatever makes you feel good, right? Like,
well, you also want to be objective. Come on, we're not doing some complete clown stuff like that time that Sasquatch picked Maryland to beat Florida State when they were going to Doak to play Jameis Winston, and he's like, "Yeah, I think we're going to contain Jameis Winston." And then as soon as we get done recording, he says, "Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I think we get blown out by Florida State." I'm like, "Then why just say the opposite of that on the podcast?"
But seriously though, I think the Cardinals are the worst team in that division. Like,
I kind of agree. I don't know. The Seahawks.
Not that they're bad, but they're just worse than the other 3.
The Seahawks feel like it's kind of the same thing as last year, where it's Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett, and then Bobby Wagner, and that's it. Like, 4 guys,
Personally,
move on.
I'm not 100% convinced that Cliff Kingsbury is the worst coach in that division at this point.
He's the worst coach in the history of humanity, according to you. What's
That's-
going on,
yeah.
Corey? You're
Well,
soft.
He was the
He
worst in the
was.
history of the
He
universe.
was. But somebody else has regressed to the point that he is below
Pete
him.
Carroll?
Yep.
Is it Pete Carroll?
Wow.
It is Pete
That's
Carroll.
tough. That is tough. Pete Carroll worse than Cliff Kingsbury.
You heard it here first.
Pete
Ugh.
Carroll, who won a championship in college and in the pros.
Well, that championship in college is no longer there, so there's that.
And the one in the pros is not particularly recent. It's been a few years.
It was
More
over
recent
your
than-
boy Peyton Manning.
It was more recent than anything Cliff Kingsbury's won championship-wise. Cliff
Yeah.
Kingsbury got canned from his alma mater.
Right.
He had Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes. He couldn't,
Yeah.
get a
He had
contract.
Patrick Mahomes playing against college kids. If that's not a cheat code, then I don't know what is, right? And he still was terrible.
He was.
So, give me a break with the Cliff Kings. The guy is just standing there, just looking attractive, holding a clipboard and wearing a headset.
Dude,
That's all he does over there.
Everything that
Okay.
man wears looks like it costs about 10 G's. Like, just the turtlenecks. He looks like the guy from Billions. One of the Culkins.
Yeah.
He looks like, when he wears those glasses, he looks like a
Jeez.
Culkin. I'm just like, oh my god, get this guy out of my face.
Yeah. He's just standing there, just looking,
Preening.
just playing the coach on TV.
We're being so mean
I-
to Cliff Kingsbury. The man's 2-0, and we're just dumping on him because I don't know.
I'm being nicer to him than I've ever been,
well, this
especially comparatively.
you're still not being nice.
No.
You're being less than 100% mean.
Raiders
So-
got a nice win against the Steelers this week. That was
I did not see that coming.
That was a pretty decent game. Steelers just couldn't really do much of anything, and then Deontay Johnson hurt his knee on a completely meaningless last play. Like, you're down by 9 points, and
Just take your L, man.
You
Come
know,
on.
Just take a knee, for lack of a better description of what to do.
yeah. So that happened. Broncos beat the Jaguars.
2-0, baby. Teddy Two Gloves, as you guys have labeled him.
Yep.
Getting it done.
The Falcons were actually playing a pretty tight game with the Buccaneers, and then 2 late pick sixes by Matty Ice gave the Buccaneers a pretty comfortable 23-point victory.
Matt Ryan was putting up stats, but it was the ugliest looking. Good
Oh,
performance I've ever
absolutely.
seen. He was like throwing up
Yeah, he
puffball
looked terrible.
dumps, just like, and these guys just happened to be there. And eventually, it caught up to him, and he started throwing pick sixes. I was like, this dude's done. He's washed.
Oh, yeah.
He's got nothing left.
Meanwhile,
Ben's tapped too. He's cooked.
And that was one of the 4 late games on Sunday. So it's an incredible juxtaposition between Titans, Seahawks, Vikings, Cardinals, and Cowboys, Chargers, and then they flip on red zone to the Bucks and the Falcons, who are just the Falcons don't belong on the same field as the Buccaneers.
Yeah, but it did get a lot of action because Tom Brady threw 5 touchdowns. The Falcons scored their share, and then the Buccaneers got 2 pick sixes, which
To the same guy.
yeah.
Yep, it's the same guy. So Brady now has 9 touchdown passes through the first 2 games this season. So pretty good stat line there for him.
Yeah, he looks as
He
good as
looks
he
as good
normally
as
does.
ever.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Also, I saw a bit of his press conference. Tom Brady's hair is way too dark for somebody who's 44 years old, right? It was so brown it was looking black, right? Like that's not hair color of any person who's 44. Like, come on now.
Of
You're
all the things
not
to
fooling me anymore.
of all the things to point out about Tom Brady's appearance that clearly he's had work done on, the hair is the last thing that I even think about. I think about the crap in his face, or maybe not the hair color, but the fact that he has a full head. Given the fact that his hair was thinning around the front of the hairline, like back in 2006 when he was posing for pictures with Donald Trump, and now all of a sudden he's just got a perfect full head of hair. I'm like, yeah, this dude's and hey, he's got the money and he's married to a supermodel. I guess he's got to keep it going, but yeah, definitely some artificial work in there for Tommy.
Yeah, I saw a meme somewhere, and it had a picture of Tom Brady when he was really early on in his career with the Patriots. He's got this big round face and stuff.
Got the big
And
chin,
then-
like the weird looking
Yes.
chin.
Yeah, and then a picture of him now with the Buccaneers, and the caption is you're not ugly, you're just poor. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Oh
the
man.
difference.
Yep, that's money will do that for you. But no shade to him for that. Rookie quarterbacks looked terrible this week, and by rookie quarterbacks I mean all of them looked terrible. Mac Jones sucked. Zach Wilson was the worst. Justin Fields in his brief time, he made a couple of good plays, but he had a really ugly interception too. And Trevor Lawrence had another rough day at the office. It just
2 of those 4 won their games, though.
Mac Jones won one because he was playing another one.
Yeah.
And also, Justin Fields technically didn't win that game because he wasn't starting.
Yeah, well, his team won.
That's true.
I mean, I believe I had that as well. Told you the Bears were going to win. But then
You
also,
didn't say it very strongly. You put a whole point on them.
oh, well, you put multiple points on the other team, which
That's
was
true.
incorrect.
That is true. That was incorrect.
Yeah.
I didn't imagine that Joe Burrow, who hadn't thrown a pick in like 200 attempts, would throw 3 in a row. I didn't see that coming. Sorry.
He was terrible.
Yeah, rough
but
day at the office for him. He's fine though. We think Joe Burrow has earned enough benefit of the doubt. He'll be
okay.
fine. Just like these rookies will probably be fine too, but second week on the job.
Some of them probably will not, but it's too early to tell which ones.
Yeah, we
right
don't
now.
really know which ones are going to stink and which ones are going to be good. So, but
Yeah.
Zach,
Did y'all hear the stat? Did y'all hear the stat this week about how in the last 20 years or so, there's been 4 rookie quarterbacks to throw 4 interceptions and no touchdowns in a game, and there's Zach Wilson this week. Sam Darnold did it. Mark Sanchez did it, and then Alex Smith in 2005.
3 of those players have something in common.
Yes, this is
Played for
one
the
of these
Jets.
things is not like the other.
Good
Exactly.
Lord. Poor Alex Smith. That's
the 49ers at those times were Jets West, so it's understandable.
yeah, one of those is not like the others, and it's not just the uniform either. It's the fact that Alex Smith actually turned out to be a pretty good quarterback.
Hey,
now the jury's still out on Zach Wilson, but
And Sam Darnold's having a good
Darnold's
year
having
so
a
far.
nice start too.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
And Mark Sanchez won 4 road playoff games.
He did.
Yeah,
That's true.
and he played well in those games. It wasn't just like he got carried. He played good football.
Fair enough.
Yes, that is
He did
true.
not have any staying power in the league, but he did.
Well, no, because he wasn't actually good at football. He just
did
had a
have a
couple
Then
of
short
good
2
games.
years later
success.
was the butt fumble, and that
Yes.
was the end of his
Yeah,
career.
He
had-
was Carson Wentz before Carson Wentz.
Well,
He
Carson.
stayed healthy. At
Yeah,
least.
he had a case of the sucks. He
just played bad.
not good at football anymore.
Butt fumble.
Yes,
On Thanksgiving in front of everybody.
I was
Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe none of my friends I don't think we were in the chat together at the time. Maybe we were.
I don't remember if we were, but I definitely when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
The whole thing is just weird because it started off with a busted ass play. Like Sanchez goes to turn to hand the ball,
Unintended,
and
I guess.
the running back's not there. And normally when that happens, the quarterback kind of keeps his cool and he doesn't freak out. Sanchez, you could almost see him like a cartoon, just shake his head. And
I fell off the couch laughing.
I started laughing before the butt fumble even happened. I just thought, I was like, this is hilarious.
I saw it coming before he actually ran face first into his teammate's ass.
Then he takes off running, and he just looks ridiculous running down the field. I'm like, okay, something bad's going to happen here. And then kaboom, I'm like, wait, the ball's on the turf, and the Patriots just picked it up and housed it. And I was like, and I even thought for a second, I was like, was he down? I was like, no, he literally dropped the ball as he was face planting on the dude's cheeks.
Well, not to mention he hit his own player, so he's not down
Yeah,
by
I wasn't
contact
sure.
anyway.
Yeah, in real time, I couldn't quite tell if somebody else hit him. I was like, just right in the booty butt cheeks for that guy. And just
And how do you not notice your offensive lineman's enormous behind right in front of you?
well, he slipped, and then his face collided with his derriere. So there you go.
I wish I could know how that offensive lineman felt when all of a sudden
With a
he
face mask
feels
in your
like
butt?
this face mask in a place that he's never felt a face mask before.
You don't know.
And he's not the center, right? He's used to having
he was
somebody reach
a
up underneath it.
Anyway, we have
Good
spent
times.
a lot of time on a play that happened 9 years ago. So we'll move on. I think that does it for our conversation. I don't feel compelled to talk about last night's game much. I mean, the Packers blew out the Lions. Water is wet. Let's move on.
Aaron Jones had a great game for me that I didn't need.
Yeah, because I was
actually I did need it in Evan's league.
I saw a bunch of people complaining about how Aaron Jones ruined their fantasy week, and I was like, I feel like that didn't really happen in our league. I was like, who has Aaron Jones? I was like, oh yeah, Cory does. I was like, he was already good. Like,
Well, I mean, for every person who Aaron Jones ruins their fantasy week, he also made somebody else's fantasy week.
Yeah,
like, that's how fantasy football works.
Yeah, of course. It's like bad beats. Like somebody on the other side of the bad beat is
gotta,
thrilled.
Yeah,
they got a nice win.
Yeah,
you know, that's what we call it. So let's talk about some of these games, the ones that don't stink. Panthers at Texans, don't care. Colts at Titans, Carson Wentz isn't going to play, and while normally I would say, who cares, his backups legitimately look way worse than him. So, Titans.
Jacob Eason, who was a highly touted recruit at UGA, like, I don't know, 8 years ago at this point. He sucks. He sucked in college. He definitely sucks in the pros. He's everybody says he's got a big arm. He doesn't. That's not true. So yeah, he's not any good.
I didn't see a whole lot to be inspired by.
He lost to Georgia Tech. How do you do that?
Life finds a way. So, Falcons at Giants, toilet bowl game. Who cares? Chargers at Chiefs. You think Chargers can win this game?
Probably not. I mean, I
don't think so.
I mean, it's interesting because those AFC West games, a lot of times you see closer games than they really should be, considering one of the teams is the Chiefs. But the only team that's really shown that they can actually get it done somehow is the Raiders. The Chargers haven't gotten there yet, so I don't see it happening here.
Yeah, the last time the Chargers were in that mix was when they had Phillip Rivers in 2018.
Yeah.
Bengals, although they did come close in Justin Herbert's first game where they murdered Tyrod Taylor with the needle, and he came out there and he almost won that game. I mean, that was a really competitive game.
The Chargers did win their second matchup last year, but that was a Week 17 nothing burger game.
The Chiefs weren't trying.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers get it close, but they don't win.
Yeah. Bengals at Steelers.
Steelers roll. Like it's the Bengals don't have it. They got a lot of work.
Steelers don't really have it either. Ben sucks. He's washed. And TJ Watt's hurt. That matters a lot.
TJ Watt is hurt. Devin Bush was banged up. I don't know if he'll be back this week. I think they had another key defender who was out this past week. That Najee Harris is kind of hit or miss. Like he hasn't been all that great so far.
Okay. I guess y'all convinced me then. Bengals.
I don't even know if I'm picking the Bengals.
I don't know who I'm picking yet.
I'm just saying I wouldn't say the Steelers roll necessarily.
Yeah, I'm not going to go out and say that one team is going to blow the other team out. I would say that this is going to be a prime candidate for a low confidence game because it's probably going to be pretty tight down the stretch.
This is also a big rivalry game as well.
The Bengals are probably in better shape overall than the Steelers are right now as far as their health. I mean, you look at the Bengals' offense is definitely better than the Steelers' offense. And depending on just how banged up the Steelers' defense is, whether any of those guys can come back for this game is really going to determine, I think, the outcome of this game. Because the Bengals' defense isn't really that good, but it doesn't have to be to slow down the Steelers' offense. Like, the key to this matchup is going to be the Bengals' offense with, how does Joe Burrow bounce back from that 3-interception game? How does T. Higgins play? How does some of these other guys play who had some drops this week for no reason? Does Joe Mixon bounce back from sort of a dud, considering how good he was in week 1?
Jamar Chase could be an X factor.
Jamar Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase has been excellent so far this year.
Yeah, Jamar Chase had a great game.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, he had another touchdown, a really good play where he had to make the adjustment on the ball in flight. That's something that, I think the first receiver that I really appreciated doing that since I started watching football was probably Santana Moss when he was playing for the team, where he was just really good at when the ball's up in the air, even when the quarterback makes a terrible throw, which was typical for Mark Brunell. He had to go get it. Jamar Chase did that. And I'm not saying Burrow made a bad throw on the play.
No.
It was just Jamar was playing chess while the defensive backs were playing checkers on that play. They had no idea what to do. And he was like, I'm going to just catch this and stroll into the end zone because I'm good.
Yeah.
Was that the play where the DBs collided?
Yes, they ran into each other.
Yep.
Okay.
This is a game that I feel like, the line has got to be Steelers, but by probably less than 3 points, quite honestly, even with them at home.
I would probably guess 3.5 or 4 just because Steelers tend to have a little bit of clout.
I'm looking it up right now out of curiosity, and it looks like it's It's Steelers 4.5 right now.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. We're playing Bill Simmons guess the lines game here, so
Yeah.
I listen to that every week.
yeah, it's delightful.
Honestly, at 4.5, I'd probably take the Bengals.
Yeah, I wouldn't
against the spread. I would take the Bengals there.
Okay, so next game on the slate, Bears at Browns. I think we assume the Browns roll at home.
Yeah.
Even Justin Fields' first start, tough day to start against. And if Andy Dalton's back, he's Andy Dalton. So either way, not great.
Yeah, I don't know if this will necessarily be my 16-point game, but it's definitely a candidate.
It's a good one. Ravens at Lions. I know Evan's got trepidations because it's his team, and so we are anti-homers on this podcast. But I think the Ravens ought to win this one.
I mean, I thought they ought to win against the Raiders last week.
Well, the Lions are,
and you thought they ought to lose against the Chiefs. So
yeah.
Evan
so I
does
clearly
not seem to have his
finger
on the pulse of his team right now.
But does anybody really like we thought
that's
they'd
a
beat
good
the
point.
Raiders and we thought they'd lose to the Chiefs, and the opposite happened.
I mean,
I did give them a lot more credit than you guys did on that.
That's
one.
true, and that's the reason why you're picking first this week.
It's I mean, you could point out that. You could also point out the fact that I went kind of high on the confidence for Washington on Thursday Night Football. I was biting my fingernails
You
on that
got
one.
away with that one. My goodness.
If it hadn't been for a needless offsides penalty, we wouldn't be talking about that game in the same way today.
No, we would not.
How many points did you put on the team last week?
I put 8.
8?
And I think y'all put like 1.
Yeah, I probably put a
like
low
3.
number.
Maybe, but I put 8.
Yeah, that was risky.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like during the Ravens-Chiefs game, I was actually thinking about that. I was like, if the Chiefs win this, I'm probably going to win the week.
Well, yeah, because you would have pulled it within 1 point, and you had a good bit more than I did on the Packers as well.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to. But then I was watching the game, like, I want the Ravens to win this game. Like, I was just like, the Ravens winning would be so much cooler than, the Chiefs beat the Ravens again. Lamar sucks, and Patrick Mahomes is great. That's what the talking points would have been.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yep.
Yeah. So this game against the Lions, I mean, the Ravens should win easily. They should, right? I mean, if they execute, one of the factors against the Chiefs was the Ravens didn't blitz hardly at all. Like the couple times they did blitz, Mahomes lit them up. So Wink Martindale is going to be chomping at the bit to send some of those creative blitzes once again. And poor Jared Goff is going to be right in the crosshairs of all of them. So there's going to be plenty of Goff moments where his eyes are super big, he's looking and confused, and the ball's rolling or something.
I mean,
the
question is going to be, is he willing to take the check down to a guy like DeAndre Swift? Because we saw, I mean, he did it in garbage time last night, but outside of that, he really wasn't using his checkdowns. They had a 4th and 2 at one point in the second half. I forget if it was late third quarter, early fourth quarter, but they had a 4th and 2 where Swift started in a block, then kind of leaked out into the short field right in front of Goff, wide open beyond the line to gain, and instead Goff decides to throw a needless, difficult pass outside the numbers that went incomplete, because of course it did. And of course he did.
I've never seen Peyton Manning have so many surrender cobra moments watching Jared Goff in the second half last night. He was losing his mind. Like, it's just like, couldn't believe all the mistakes he was making. But hey, that's Jared Goff. Like, we talked about this.
He did have a really nice throw to T.J. Hawkinson for that touchdown. Like, that was a pretty pass.
That was a good throw.
Yeah.
But that was one throw.
Goff can throw a pretty ball. It's just that when anything around him is wrong, he reverts to being what he was as a rookie, which is literally the worst quarterback to ever lace it up. Like, he was so bad as a rookie that it's just like, it's amazing that he's had the career he's had. He owes a lot of it to Sean McVay. I remember when PFT tweeted after the first half when the Lions were playing well, it's like, could it possibly be that Sean McVay was holding Jared Goff back? And of course the answer is no.
Absolutely not.
It's like, no.
He was carrying him.
Yeah, Jared Goff is...
He can thank Sean McVay, Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods.
And a good offensive line. And Brandon Cooks for a little while, too.
And
Todd Gurley, yeah. Jeez.
He had a great supporting cast for a short time.
Yep.
I find it hard to believe that, 2016 Jared Goff and 2018 Jared Goff were even the same person. Like, he was so incredibly terrible. Like you said, Corey, the worst quarterback ever.
That was Eric.
Oh,
Me.
okay. Well, I can't see Eric. So, Anyway,
You could see my lips not moving when that was said.
Well, I thought you said it. I'm sorry.
I said it.
Credit to Eric for accurately pointing out that Jared Goff in 2016 was the worst quarterback of all time. Because he was.
So
And then in
bad.
2018, he's slinging it all over the place. They're scoring 400 points a game, and they're going to the Super Bowl. Like, how is that even possible? Like,
Where they
what?
couldn't score at all.
Yeah, because Todd Gurley wasn't 100%. That's why. Because anything goes wrong, Jared Goff turns into a pumpkin. He sucks.
Yes.
Okay.
I
I think
Ravens should.
Yeah, I think we're good there. Saints at Patriots. This is a weird game to pick because the Saints are coming off a terrible loss, which was coming off of a huge, awesome-looking win. And the New England Patriots defense, at the very least, is stout. Their defensive backfield is incredible. We figured that would be, especially with some of the guys coming back after opting out last year.
Their offense is decent as far as running backs between Damian Harris and James White. I mean, they look fantastic. But outside of that, Mac Jones still doesn't quite have it in the throwing game
Looks
yet.
like he's got the training wheels on.
Right, and because of that, we don't really know how good or bad the receiving core is at this point.
Yeah, I think this game's gonna be decided depending on how well the Saints offense performs.
Yeah,
Because
if
that's
the Saints
kinda,
offense plays well, they'll win this game.
Yeah, because the Patriots just aren't going to be able to score enough points if the Saints offense is able to move the ball, and they were able to move the ball in week 1, and week 2 not so much.
Yeah.
So
if the Saints are anything but what they were in week 1, the Patriots probably win this game because the Patriots defense will contain the Saints.
yeah, I agree.
I think the Patriots defense takes advantage of quarterbacks who are prone to making mistakes, right? They force the quarterback into screwing up real bad. So like,
The key to this game really is Alvin Kamara. The Saints
Yeah.
have to get him going.
Yeah, which Jameis are we going to see, right? Are we going to see week 1 Jameis where he throws 5 touchdowns, or week 2 Jameis where he threw what, 2 or 3 interceptions?
Two picks.
Yeah, like, which one is it? And there's no Rob Ryan looking all sad for this game because Rob Ryan's a coach for the Ravens now.
I was so mad when they.
That's your quarterback. Remember that from 8 years ago?
Chris Collins was like, "That's my guy." I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah,
Why is that your guy?
Like this week he's standing for Rob Ryan of all people, and last week he was defending Matt Nagy and the Bears front office for how they're handling the Fields Dalton
Chris Collins was
situation.
reverting to his Fox NFL Sunday form.
Where it's like everything's good for everybody, like nobody stinks at all, which is tiresome.
It's a zero-sum game. If somebody's good, that means somebody else is bad.
Yeah,
Right.
If you baseline it as an average, you
Yeah.
can't sit there and have everybody be good because then nobody's really good, just like in The Incredibles. Anyway,
When everyone's super, no one will be.
thank you.
Somebody else whose initials were BS, right? It was the guy was saying Syndrome was saying he was the babysitter, but like can't go around with a big BS on my chest. So
What? Was that Syndrome?
yes.
It's
At the
been a
beginning.
while
I thought he was Incrediboy.
Well, this was after he was Incrediboy, but right as soon as he became Syndrome, he showed up at the Par's house with the big S on his chest, and Kari was confused. It's like, what's the S stand for? And he's like, sitter. Short for
Remember
babysitter.
that line?
So I guess if you come here for football, you also get a little bit of an incredible synopsis for the very beginning.
I'm gonna have to look that up because I don't remember that the same way. But maybe
Maybe. Love The Incredibles.
I do too.
Oh my
I
goodness.
love The Incredibles too.
This feels like we need to start a movie podcast at another time. Let's talk some football. Oh wait, we're talking about Cardinals Jaguars. That's not going to be football for at least one of those teams. Next, the team at
Kingsbury 3-0.
God, the team at. Could you imagine if he loses to Urban Meyer? Oh man, just insufferable.
I would be simultaneously amused and infuriated because I can't stand Urban Meyer, let alone as an NFL coach. But I would be so amused if Cliff Kingsbury screws that up.
So many bad pun possibilities. Like this is the insufferable here. Yeah, I went there. Anyway,
Corey double face palm.
deserved it. I specified that it was a bad pun. The team at the Bills. the Bills had a get-right game against a team we thought was good because the Bills are really good, and they stomped the crap out of the Dolphins again.
Again, Tua
In
got
Miami.
hurt early. We didn't, he had a rough start, but he didn't get much of a start. He didn't have so did Lamar Jackson against the Chiefs. And I'm not going to sit here and say Tua was going to do what Lamar did because he wouldn't have.
He can't.
But he didn't have an opportunity to bounce back from a less rough start than Lamar had with that pick six. So, but yeah, the Bills definitely had a get-right game. Won that game easily, 35-0. Your kicker got goose-egged because of that. Not that you needed him, but
they refused to just stay in field goal range in the early part of the game, and by the end of the game, they couldn't kick field goals anymore. Yep. It was unbelievable.
So, as happy as I am with the way that the football team, pulled out that win on Thursday night, this is an easy Bills win.
Yeah, a struggle win against the Giants does not inspire confidence against an actually good team.
Washington hasn't really played all that well against Buffalo since winning the Super Bowl back in 1992.
Well, they've only played it probably 7 times.
Yeah, but we haven't played too well, especially when the game is in Buffalo. So
I don't think there's enough of a sample size to discern a pattern.
Especially given that it's 4 years apart, so they're completely different teams.
And then the games in Buffalo are once every 8 years.
Anyway, Jets at Broncos. Broncos roll. Dolphins at Raiders. I guess it kind of depends a little bit on Tua's status. And, the Raiders.
The Dolphins' defense, it kind of depends. Like, they still have the record. They've continued to set a new record every week for the most consecutive games with a takeaway.
But do we actually believe in the Raiders, though?
I think that's the question
is a bit
of the week
strong,
right there.
but they're good.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. If you think they're good, that means you kind of believe in them. Whereas...
I think they're a decent team. I think that they are.
So are the Dolphins.
Yeah, but if Tua's not in there, I don't think that the Dolphins' defense is going to do enough to keep them in it.
Are we sure Tua's that much?
But
better
Tua
than
was
Jacoby
in last
Brissett?
week,
Yes.
and they didn't score
Jacoby
any points.
Brissett was awful last week.
Yeah, but Tua's been awful since.
Tua was okay week 1. Wasn't great, but he was okay.
The Dolphins. The Dolphins should have lost in week 1 too. The Patriots gave that game away.
Yes, they did. Same
Jacoby
way the Chiefs
Brissett
lost.
Stinks.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think he's had enough moments to give him the benefit of the doubt. He feels like a little bit like Tyrod Taylor to me, like where he can have moments where he looks really good. Seahawks and Vikings.
That should be an interesting one.
Yeah, that's interesting. The Seahawks are coming off of a blown game, and they're playing at the Vikings, who
had
had
off a blown game.
Yeah, coming off a blown game, but both teams had decent offensive outputs. Couldn't play a lick of defense. It's in Minnesota. That could be an interesting game. I'm certainly compelled by that one.
It'll be fun. It'll be exciting.
It'll be a low
Something
confidence
crazy
game
is going to happen.
for me.
Yeah, this feels like recycled the tweet about the Seahawks never playing a normal game. That's happening.
Yeah.
It happened this week too. That was by no means a normal game against the Titans.
Yeah. This game, one of the teams is going to win by 1 or something, or it's going to go to overtime with 2 minutes left in overtime, and one team's at the 45 with a 4th down, trying to figure out what they're going to do, and red zone's going to cut it off again because it's going to be too late or something like that.
It's awful. Okay, so probably the game of the week.
The
Buccaneers at Rams.
100%.
This is definitely the one to watch. Kind of wish this was a standalone game because I'd rather probably just watch this one than sit on Red Zone, but it's Red Zone, so I will be watching Red Zone. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. The Rams have the tools to compete in this game and potentially win it. They've got good. Yeah, they beat them last year. They have good offensive weapons. They've got an upgraded quarterback since last year. Their defense is really strong, but so is the Bucs. The Bucs defense is strong. The offense is rolling. This is. When we went into the 2020 season talking about the Buccaneers, one of the things that we talked about, at least I remember definitely I talked about, was that I expected it to be a slow start for them because they're still kind of getting a sense of each other. They're still learning, how to play together as a team. they figured that out by year's end. They won the freaking Super Bowl, and they've picked up right where they left off last year. So, the Bucks have to sort of have the advantage, but it is in LA, which I think gives the Rams a decent shot of pulling this out. So I think this game, I don't even think there's a line on this game right now. I think it's like completely even.
You can pick them.
Yeah, I think that this is a pick 'em game.
ESPN is currently showing Tampa Bay is favored by 1.
Are they? Football Outsiders has it even.
Okay. I mean, it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on where you get it, I guess. But
Or actually, no. So they have the line as even, but they have the Football Outsiders projected line at 0.9, plus 0.9. So that means in favor of the Bucks.
yeah, so they're indicating that if you were to bet the game, you should probably bet on the Bucks to cover the no point spread.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a couple of primetime games to maybe talk about if we think they're cool. The Packers at 49ers. The Packers have gone to San Francisco, or I guess Santa Clara, as I should say, the last couple of times and have gotten absolutely blasted by the 49ers. I don't know if this is going to be different because it doesn't feel like the 49ers don't feel the same, but neither do the Packers.
No, there have been times that they've gone there and I thought it was going to be different and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So this is going to be one of those low confidence games where I might pick the Packers because I think that, they kind of got right this past week. They had a good game plan. They really relied on the run quite a bit. And if they do that against the 49ers, if there's a weakness in that defense, it probably is in the run game. The question is, when the run game is really only the running back, like it is with the Packers, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't really run the ball anymore, how much does that affect that? Because, the one thing that the 49ers struggled with the Eagles was the run game, but that was, two-headed horse between Miles Sanders having a decent game and then Jalen Hurts just running wild on them for 82 yards. I don't think that the 49ers offense just doesn't really do it for me right now. I mean, they lost they lost a lot of steam with Raheem Mostert going down. Trey Sermon hasn't really factored into things yet. Elijah Mitchell was okay this week, but nothing special.
He got hurt, didn't he?
I think he might have. Brandon Ayuk, I mean, he made an appearance this week. He got on the stat sheet, but he hasn't done much of anything. So it's really just been, and George Kittle did nothing this week either. I mean, you figure he's got to bounce back. Deebo Samuel has been pretty solid, but those are really the only two bright spots for this offense so far through 2 weeks. And if that's all they have, the Packers defense can handle that.
Packers defense is pretty bad, but the 49ers offense, like Corey said, has not looked great. And so it kind of leads to a little bit of a macro question for the 49ers. If this offense doesn't get it going, at what point do you say play Trey Lance? Because Trey Lance definitely is rough around the edges. We know that he's not the most accurate throwing the football, but he adds an element of athleticism at the quarterback position that could at least boost that run game, similar to how Jalen Hurts does for the Eagles and how Lamar Jackson does at the highest level for the Ravens. I mean, that is a factor because if Jimmy Garoppolo's not getting the ball to Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel frequently enough to make this offense churn, then what the hell do I even care if the quarterback doesn't throw that well? I could just turn him into, an option type of running game type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of that comes down to the coach's philosophy. And, you think about the fact that right now they're 2-0, and they're 2-0 with Jimmy Garoppolo. So does that mean you have to roll with Jimmy Garoppolo because he's, quote-unquote, getting the job done? In which case, at what point do you decide that he's not getting the job done enough that you make that decision? And if you wait until the 49ers are out of contention, essentially, to make that decision, do you actually put Trey Lance in there knowing that you're probably going to continue to lose games and you're going to potentially, ruin his confidence? You'd rather have him in there when the team is doing well. At the same time, if you don't trust him right now, you don't want to put him in there and potentially have him lose confidence when the team is expected to be good, right? Because he plays poorly.
That's why Kyle Shanahan's making all that money.
He's
not me.
He's got to make that
you know?
decision. Basically the answer is I don't really know, and I'm glad that I don't have to make the decision.
That was an elaborate way of saying I don't know. I just
I
don't,
agree with all of what Cory said.
I just don't. But I don't understand like the idea of they drafted him, they traded up to get him
He did.
because they didn't think Jimmy Garoppolo was getting the job done enough. The dude took him to a Super Bowl, and reasonably the 49ers looked at it and said, yeah, but, because that was a fair assessment. He threw 8 damn passes in one of the playoff games because they were just like, okay, don't mess this up, you bum. Because what happened in the Super Bowl? He messed it up. He's the reason they lost. He played terribly. So
they're 2-0, so he's getting the job done enough.
But
I guess.
But they got this guy because they clearly didn't think Jimmy was good enough to get them where they wanted to go, which is to the podium holding up the trophy at the end of the year and marching down wherever in the Bay Area, hopefully not throwing the Lombardi Trophy across the Bay like in Tampa, because knowing Jimmy Garoppolo, he wouldn't throw it far enough and it would end up in the drink.
What? I mean, I have a hard time seeing the Packers winning just because I feel like the 49ers kind of have their number.
Yeah.
Like the 49ers aren't as good as they were 2 years ago when they pounded the Packers into dust twice. But like the Packers showed that they clearly have some issues in week 1, and they didn't demolish a terrible Lions team last night. So, the Packers to me still have some unanswered questions. But then also the 49ers don't look that great either. They let the Lions keep coming up. They let the Lions back in with the ball, chance to tie in week 1. And then 2 days ago, the Eagles, who I don't think are very good, they played a close game. So I would pick the 49ers, but I don't have a whole lot of confidence in them to win.
Yeah, something to know about the Packers, though. It seems like the teams they struggle against are the teams that can really get to the quarterback without sending a bunch of extra pressure, which kind of sounds like every team. But specifically the Packers, that's how you sort of slow down their offense, and their defense certainly isn't good enough to keep you in the game if your offense is struggling. So the 49ers definitely boast a good pass rush, and if they're living in the backfield with Aaron, it's going to be a long, long Sunday night for Green Bay.
Yeah.
So one more game to discuss if we so desire, and I imagine we will. Monday Night Football, the Eagles will be playing at the Cowboys. So NFC least matchup here. The Eagles coming off of a competitive but not very inspiring showing against the 49ers after a nice Week 1 win against the Falcons. And the Cowboys got on the board with... They probably were less impressive in their win against the Chargers than they were in their loss against the Bucs.
I'll agree.
So both of these teams look kind of meh, which is par for the course for this division.
Yeah.
Like, the best you're going to get is meh. So I don't know what to make of this.
The Cowboys should win this game.
I think so, yeah.
The Cowboys are clearly the better team. It's just going to come down to, do they actually execute well enough to win this game, or do they potentially...
Exactly.
I don't think that the Eagles can win this game, but I think the Cowboys can lose this game.
Yeah, it's going to take Mike McCarthy going galaxy brain to screw this up. And,
Going galaxy brain.
And it's definitely on the table because, well,
It's
Exhibit
Mike
A
McCarthy.
2 days ago.
Supermassive black hole in the middle.
My God. It's very much a possibility for that to happen, but I agree. I think that's what is required for the Cowboys to lose, because I think the Cowboys' offense is legitimately really, really good.
And I think that the defense is good enough.
It's better than we thought it would be. Michael Parsons is making an instant impact.
He's really good.
And some of the guys some of the marquee players on their defense, like Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, those guys have come back nicely and contributed. Their secondary is still kind of bad, but against Jalen Hurts and against one rookie receiver who we think is good, Devontae Smith is good, and then Jalen Reagor, who had a terrible rookie year but seems to have improved at least. It's not exactly a wide receiver core that you expect to just burn through people, so I just don't think they match up that well.
Yeah. The Eagles keep it close because it's a division game. But there's really no excuse for the Cowboys to lose this game. They're at home, national TV. If the Cowboys lose, and I am really rooting for it because it's going to be entertaining if they lose. If the Cowboys lose, they have nobody to blame but themselves because they're better than the Eagles on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And decidedly so, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed with all of that.
Yeah. I was frustrated with Dak Prescott this week. He scored 8 points for me.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Aaron Jones had a huge game, and Anthony went from having the highest score in the league last week to the lowest score in the league this week, and I happened to get to play him this week.
Oh, dear.
It works out.
I was in one of my leagues. I was playing against James, who had Derrick Henry, and I still won big because everybody else on my team exploded.
I was down by like 20 points going into Monday Night Football in that league, but I had Aaron Jones, so I wound up winning by like 20.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Second straight week of 180-plus points.
Yeah, you took the top scorer of the week from me, and first
Pretty sure
place
I had
from
the top score last week too.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, my team is looking pretty good in that league and my league, which is nice because the DeMatha League, I am dead last in the power rankings right now. But that's the league where I don't have anybody, like everybody on my roster in that league, I don't think in either of the other two leagues.
Oh, I have my boy Cooper Kupp. Shout out to Cooper Kupp. I know nobody listens to this show, but shout out to Cooper Kupp. Oh my goodness. Just amazing. Like I know he is, and like all of y'all should know he is.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
Posted whoever they were playing. It don't matter.
Cooper Kupp is absolutely killing me because he's so good that Matt Stafford just throws it to him all the time instead of throwing it to Robert Woods, who is also really good. Like, Robert Woods is an afterthought right now because Matt Stafford's like, okay, new offense. Who's always open? Oh, Cooper Kupp. There we go.
Cooper Kupp's open and taking it to the house.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep throwing to that guy. And I'm like, hey, Matt, you know, Robert Woods is also open a lot. You mean throw him the ball? Nope, Cooper Kupp. He's there.
Nope,
I'm like, okay.
Kupp.
So I'm hoping down the stretch of the season, maybe teams start to try to take Cooper Kupp away, send a little safety help, maybe some double coverage, and then my boy Robert Woods gets a little more single coverage action and Stafford has to deliver the ball because we know he's good, and he's been somewhat productive. He caught a touchdown in week 1. Yeah. But, man, Cooper Kupp is just... He's definitely hogging the spotlight.
Yes, he is.
Which, you know, but credit to him because he's great. Like, I can't even get mad at him. It's not like Stafford's targeting him and he stinks. He's throwing a bunch of incompletions. He's making plays, so no hate at all.
Oh,
game recognized game on
so
that
happy.
one.
I have Cooper Kupp on all 3 of my teams, and he just lit up everybody. Went 3-0 in fantasy this week. The Ravens stole a game from the Chiefs. It was amazing.
So, I didn't get to this already, so we'll do best and worst right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, best and worst is per Football Outsiders Quick Reads, which is based off of their metrics. And they had Patrick Mahomes graded as the best quarterback. Not a real surprise there. He's usually among the quarterbacks at the top of the list. And the worst quarterback of the week was Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, that third interception he threw. What the hell, man? He was just lollygagging out there, acting like he was in his backyard. No pressure, decides to throw off his back foot across his body for no reason, even though he had time to set his feet, and just flings the ball up for Devin McCourty to intercept it. I was like, are you serious, man? You're a professional football player. It was like he ran the pro day play that everybody obsessed over where he did like that type of throw to a wide receiver, but he wasn't in pads and nobody was playing defense. And they tried it again, and it was disgusting. So shame on you, Zach Wilson, for that throw.
I think he only completed 4 passes to his team while also completing 4 passes to the other team.
Indeed. I'm sorry, Zach Wilson, but until you start playing better, cuter Sam Darnold is going to stick. So the aforementioned Aaron Jones was our best running back of the week, and we talked about this as well. Alvin Kamara was the worst running back by total DYAR this week, so one kind of expected. Aaron Jones is really good. The other... Alvin Kamara is great, and he was not by a long shot in week 2, so hopefully he bounces back. Strictly looking at rushing, Tony Pollard was the most effective ball carrier of the week, and Cordarrelle Patterson was the worst. Cordarrelle Patterson's an interesting player. They just do whatever they want with him, and they put him everywhere. They have him do return kicks. They play him at receiver. They play him at running back. He's not really good at anything except for returning kicks, but he's good enough to have a job everywhere else. So, why not? Good for him. And as far as wide receivers and or tight ends, the best of the week, again, aforementioned Cooper Kupp. He was amazing. And the worst was Laviska Shenault, who had a rough day. Got hurt as well, I believe, playing for the Jaguars. So hopefully he was able to return to the field healthy soon. And hopefully he has better days ahead as Trevor Lawrence gets settled into the NFL. So we are running towards the end of the show. It is time for us to wrap up by picking a team to axe from the playoffs. Slap the done chain on him. Cory has won the week for the second straight week, so he gets first pick again. He can thank again the Chiefs and the Giants for jumping off sides for the honor.
Yeah, pretty good start for my picks so far this year. Granted, I had a pretty good start last year and it fell apart, so we'll see if I can maintain that. And we have more weeks this year for you guys to catch up. Cause
just a quick side, have you ever won the confidence points?
Not with the sports bars. I think I might have. Well, I won like a picks contest when we were the all sports crew and the football freaks, but we didn't do confidence back then, so I don't think I've won a confidence contest with us. But right now, I've got a 31-point lead on both of you guys.
There you go. So maybe this is the year.
And that's despite Evan and me having the exact same picks record. We're both 20-12. I've done a much better job with assigning the confidence.
I've been getting a lot of games right, just not with the points.
Yeah, that's why we do it, because a lot of the games are, we kind of know what's going to happen, and it's just.
So I'm going to eliminate the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really good pick.
It is. Ooh, lordy, they were terrible.
So I've already put the done chain on the Lions, which looks really good, and the Falcons, which also looks pretty darn good right now. So I got to pick somebody else.
Yep, I've already put the done chain on the Eagles, which we'll see, but I'm still feeling okay about that one.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And the Lions, who, they're done.
Okay, so Detroit and Atlanta. I got to pick somebody that's not the Jets. Can't pick the Jets this week. I'm going to roll with the New York Football Giants.
Okay. The other New York team. So
I was
both
definitely
New York
about to
teams
pick them.
are out of there, according to us this week.
Well, they stink.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
I'll pick one of those two next week. Ooh,
Evan,
boy.
you have eliminated the Texans and the Jaguars so far, so you want to go for the trifecta and take out either the Colts or the Titans?
If the Titans had lost on Sunday, I'd be tempted to just put them in.
I wouldn't have recommended that, given the fact that they'd be just as 0-2
They'd be
as the
tied
Colts.
for first.
Right.
Like, eventually, you're running out of teams, man.
Yeah. I have a bad feeling about crapping on the Lions too hard this week, given that the Ravens are playing them. So give me the Falcons. You've been bounced from the playoffs in week 3.
All right. Well,
Are they playing this week? They're going to lose to somebody else.
So far,
hold on one second. Atlanta is playing. We talked about it a little bit. We kind of buzzed through.
yeah, we buzzed through that one because it wasn't
They're
really that
playing
interesting.
the Giants.
Giants.
Toilet bowl. So oof.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
This could be this could affect some things.
This could be a game where Evan ends up picking the team that he eliminated to win.
Well, I've eliminated both of those teams, so one of them is getting a W. But I'm hoping it's the Falcons, just because the Falcons aren't going to catch the Bucks. So. And apparently not the Panthers either.
Yep.
Whereas the NFC least is a little more. There's a little more leeway for the Giants to maybe BS their way to a title.
So far, Eric and I have both eliminated the Lions, and Eric and Evan have both now eliminated the Falcons. But other than that, some differentials there. I know that I misused that word, but I don't care. But we're mixing it up a little bit. So.
Well, that's the game we're playing, though,
Yes, it
because
is.
we all can't pick the same team.
That's what makes it fun. Otherwise, we would probably all pick the same team, and it would be boring.
Yeah.
Like the Jets. Good Lord.
Okay, so that'll probably do it for our show then, unless you guys have any shout-outs or any surprise topics that you want to get to before we hit the road.
I'll shout out my cross-country team again because we had another third-place finish this past week at the Landon Invitational. 2 straight third-place finishes and a couple of fairly competitive meets. So really proud of them, putting in a lot of work. Yesterday, I went out on a long run fartlek with my 2 top runners. Eric is over here shaking his head. Fartlek is a Swedish word for speed play.
Okay, I was like, what the hell is that?
So we basically every 7 minutes we'd throw down a 1-minute surge, and we were averaging about 7 minutes and 10 seconds per mile for 75 minutes. So we did just shy of 10.5 miles yesterday. My legs were feeling it today when we went out and did about a little more than 3 3/4 in 30 minutes for a recovery run. So I went into the training room during my free period, and they have a massage gun, and I was just using it on my legs for about 15 minutes, and didn't completely make them feel like new, but they felt a lot better after that. But yeah, shout out to those guys. We are racing at Georgetown Prep this Saturday, so I'll be once again missing college football. Not that I really care that much because I'm not that big of a fan. But yeah, we'll be racing at Georgetown Prep. That's usually a pretty competitive meet, running in the seeded varsity, and I'm excited to see how they do.
And shout out to the cross-country coach who's obviously doing a good job over there. Wherever that guy is.
Yeah.
You should get a raise or something.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. I wanted to shout out listener James Daly, who sent us some mailbag stuff, but sent us so much of it.
There's no way we could fit it into the show. So I'm going to basically take that and compile it into sort of a narrative, and it'll turn into a guest blog post on our blog. So definitely keep an eye out for not only our confidence picks on the blog in the next couple of days, but also a guest blog post from James Daly.
Yes. So his Auburn Tigers went up to State College, Pennsylvania, fell just short to Penn State, but Penn State's better than them, right? Like, it's that simple, really. It was an entertaining game. Sounded like he had fun. So be sure to check the blog post out when it gets posted.
Sounds great. I don't have any shout-outs to come to mind, so I apologize to anybody that I forgot. I'll try to get to you next week. Some updates before we get out of here on some baseball scores. The Yankees are currently waxing the Texas Rangers 7-1.
Aaron Jones hit a 3-run home run in the last 5 minutes.
Aaron Judge?
Sorry, yes,
Aaron Judge.
Aaron Jones is doing everything.
He was doing a lot. He was hitting a lot of home runs last night.
Yes, he was.
Big runs. 4
touchdowns.
My goodness. The Blue Jays are currently up 3-2 on the Rays. That game is just heading to the top of the 8th. So if the Blue Jays hold on, they'll keep pace ahead of the Yankees. And the Red Sox are up 4-2 on the sorry-ass Mets, so it looks like they're going to be in good shape as well. Some National League scores. The Cardinals, who have seized control of the second wildcard spot in the National League and don't seem to be letting it go because they just keep winning, and the Reds can't find a way to beat the AAA Pirates. And the Padres are a mess. It looks like the Cardinals are going to make the playoffs, which is nauseating, but again, congratulations to them for making it happen, I guess. And the Dodgers are down 2-0 to the Rockies. The Dodgers keep losing games they probably should win. That's probably going to cost them the division, so enjoy a 1-game playoff against the Cardinals. That'll be fun for you. But
I think if the Cardinals are going to get the wild card, they're going to go to San Francisco or to LA, and they're going to win the wild card game. It's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of these teams is going to win 110
LA,
games.
I think the Cardinals win. San Francisco might be a little more iffy.
Well, I normally would agree with you, but Max Scherzer is probably going to pitch that game.
That's true,
So,
but Adam Wainwright will probably pitch for the Cardinals, and he's been really good this year. Not Max Scherzer good, but
I'm
going to
take Scherzer and the Dodgers lineup backing him ahead of Adam Wainwright, who also looks like Shia LaBeouf. It seems to be a trend with pitchers for some reason. Anyway, that's all we got for baseball score updates. So, as you guys know, at this point, we did not pick games this week because we were recording on Tuesday, but we will update everybody with our picks on the blog when we make our week 3 selections, probably sometime in the next day.
We'll make the picks tomorrow, and it'll either go up on the blog tomorrow evening or Thursday.
Yeah, definitely going to have them in and ready for you guys to read before Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
So, other than that, I think that's all we've got to deal with, unless there's some other housekeeping that we have forgotten. I think we're good.
Orioles are tied at 1, I think, with the Phillies.
That's true. Yes, that is also
cool.
So that is relevant because of the Phillies, not because of the Orioles. But
Well, it's relevant because of the Orioles. We love the Orioles here.
That's
Yeah,
true,
you guys might play yourself out of the #1 draft pick.
Yes, we're going to screw that up too. This team can't do anything right.
19-game losing streak, and somehow all the grief and vitriol from the national sports writers, and we don't even get the top pick. Just
Right. Yeah, like I said back in March, the team's going to be the butt of a lot of jokes, and they're going to deserve it.
yeah, well, they are, and
I don't think that was one of the jokes you were expecting them to be the butt of, but it looks like they might.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, how could you be worse than the Orioles? How is that possible, Diamondbacks? So the Orioles helped out the Braves last night by beating the Phillies. It's time for the Braves to help out the Orioles by losing to the Diamondbacks.
yeah, they owe us one.
Yeah, we need that one.
Yeah.
So
I can't even get up.
So again, thank you
The top of the first.
Oh, thank you, Evan, for all that.
Sorry.
So thank you again to James Daly for reaching out via mailbag. Although again, your mailbag was more like a blog post, so we're going to pay you the proper homage with a blog page or post about it. Anybody else that wants to send us questions or feedback or any information you think we should know or should be interested in, feel free to email us at thesportsballers@gmail.com. You can find this podcast at anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and if you have a place that you prefer that isn't among those four, let us know and we will try our best to get on there and satisfy you, the listener, because that's what we do. You can follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. You can usually catch Evan involved in some hijinks there where he's tweeting at me and himself and then back to the Sports Ballers, which is just a delight when he does that. I greatly enjoy that type of humor. You can also follow us individually. Cory is at Cory Puffett. I am at Quagmire67. And Evan is at Evan_Ash13.
Oh, and lest we forget, one more shout out for James Daly. For the second week in a row, he was our listener winner for the confidence picks. I scored 102 points this week. He scored 100 points. So almost caught me this week, James. Not quite. Evan.
It's just an excuse to flex for Cory again.
Yeah, this is partially. Evan, remind your sister to put her picks in. She forgot to put them in this past week.
Oh, okay. I guess that's the only reason why she didn't beat us this week.
Yeah, because normally we just get smoked.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're the ones doing a podcast, and she comes on here. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna just get all the picks.
Yeah, I'm gonna just come and show these little boys how to do it, and it's it's very compelling though. Like, shout out to anybody that can.
It's good content.
Yeah, because it just goes to show that we like sports. Doesn't necessarily mean we know everything about sports. We don't pretend to. We just like to talk a lot. So that's why we do this podcast.
That's why we do a podcast.
Yeah, where we listen. We have 4 listeners, and we talk for 2.5 hours about football that already happened for the most
I
part.
think we might be up to 5.
Sweet.
Well, if you're the 5th listener,
we're almost to
please
half a
reach
dozen,
out to
Evan.
all
We're
the-
almost to half a dozen.
We're getting there, baby.
Okay.
We are getting there. So again, this was episode 161 of the Sports Ballers podcast. We'll be back next week with week 3 recaps and week 4 picks. We will be back on Wednesday. Evan will be hosting then. Until then, have a great weekend. Enjoy all the football. And like Evan usually says, be kind to one another. Make sure you bathe. Make sure you, if you haven't been vaccinated, I would prefer that you do so, as would probably most people around you. So go ahead and get that taken care of, please. And we will see you next week. Take it easy.